The Oracle ceremony was a big deal, a coming-of-age ritual where every youth turning 15 was granted a unique ability. Everyone looked forward to it with excitement, each hoping to receive the finest of gifts. Young Ecto Glenreed was about to face his moment in the capital of Falsford. Riding in a carriage with his father, he thought of their noble family's long line of attribute mages. Gazing out at the scenery, Ecto quietly promised his strict father, Margrave Rand Glenreed, Lord of the Southern Lands, that he would not disappoint. After all, the Margrave always got his way, and expected no less from his son. There was a vast range of magical abilities that could be granted, some for healing, some for trade, and others that boosted strength. But for aristocrats, only 3 attributes truly mattered: fire, water, and wind. These were the pillars of combat, the marks of true power. Many trials awaited those who pursued them, but Ecto, proud of his noble bloodline, longed for nothing less than one of these mighty elements. When the ceremony reached its peak, the High Magister finally revealed Ecto's fate. He possessed a rare earth attribute. Ecto waited anxiously for the result, but his heart sank when he heard it. His father, however, exploded in anger. Rand Glenreed demanded a retest, furious at the thought of his son falling short. But the Magister shook his head. The Oracle's judgment was final, unchangeable. The Margrave, a man whose pride came from a lineage filled with powerful children, refused to accept that his third son had failed. When Ecto tried to calm him, his father struck him across the face. The blow was nothing compared to the sting of humiliation. To make matters worse, Ecto's own brothers mocked him. One sneered that controlling earth and stone consumed too much energy to be useful in real combat. Another coldly agreed, saying their father's disappointment was justified. And so, the young heir who had dreamed of fire, water, or wind was granted with what they saw as the weakest gift, earth. Ecto's brothers wasted no time mocking him, saying he had disgraced the family name. While waiting for his father's judgment, Ecto was even banned from sitting at the family table. It only got worse. People around him started avoiding him, whispering that the earth attribute was useless. Ecto couldn't understand why everyone suddenly treated him like an outcast. Deep down, he was crushed. He had always dreamed of getting wind, not this. Following his father's orders, Ecto was locked under house arrest for half a year. But when it finally ended, the Margrave gave his final decision. Ecto was banished. Stripped of his family name and privileges, he was sent to the remote village of Boda, on the far western edge of the lands. The place was nothing but barren ground surrounded by huge, dangerous forests filled with deadly beasts. That's when Ecto realized the truth. His father hadn't just exiled him, he'd basically sent him to die. And since they couldn't kill him outright because of his noble blood, this was the easiest way. From now on, Ecto had only himself to rely on. To make the journey, he was sent with a squad: Amanda, leader of the adventurer team Advanced Wings, and half-dwarf Orem, an earth mage. Amanda, a swordswoman who clearly hated the mission, but Orem reminded her that even regular guards were promised an insane reward: 10,000 gold coins. Among the team was Sifa, a half-elf archer who looked like he couldn't care less, and Nora, a half-giant tank. This crew wasn't ordinary. Every single one of them was B rank. And the one handling the heavy firepower? Doreen, the fire mage. But what shocked them most wasn't the mission itself, it was the reward that had been promised. 10,000 gold coins, an extraordinary sum, especially when an ordinary person could survive for a month on just 2. Ecto had inherited an entire treasury from his father, leaving him shocked at such generosity despite their strained relationship. Ecto, on the other hand, had no worries about money either. He had saved secret funds and stole some from his brothers. Growing tired of the cramped carriage, he asked Amanda how much longer until they reached their destination. Amanda quickly snapped back, reminding him not to address her so casually. She only spoke properly with men she considered worthy. Ecto sighed, realizing she'd probably never stop saying that. Orem explained it would take about half a month to reach Boda village. But Amanda immediately warned her not to talk to Ecto unless given permission. Even the half-dwarf in their group shook his head, saying Amanda was being way too harsh. Just then, Nora noticed movement ahead and called out to the team. A gang of thieves appeared on the road, already in the middle of a robbery. Knowing they'd be spotted at that distance, Amanda ordered an immediate attack. She told Ecto to stay out of the way while her squad handled things. But Ecto wasn't about to sit quietly. He followed after them, insisting he had a plan. Amanda scoffed, saying an earth mage had no role here, and ordered him back to the carriage. Ecto stood firm. His noble blood gave him incredible reserves of magic, and he was determined to prove that even with the earth attribute, he could achieve great things. Amanda shrugged and told him to do as he pleased, but she wouldn't take responsibility. Ecto replied he would accept full responsibility himself. At that moment, Ecto remembered when he was 10, stricken with a mysterious fever. That illness had unlocked memories of his past life as a Japanese man from the 21st century. And in the 6 months since his exile, he had trained non-stop, creating unique earth techniques no one in this world had ever imagined. The bandits rallied and charged. Ecto focused. A surge of magical power spread across the ground, forming a net that scattered the first group instantly. Building on that momentum, he cracked the earth itself, sending fissures racing toward the mounted bandits. Horses panicked, throwing their riders to the ground. Chaos spread through the enemy ranks. Amanda seized the moment, leading the charge. Her massive sword cut through the bandits with terrifying ease. Nora's shield smashed their defenses apart, crushing anyone who tried to resist. Orim, the young earth mage, fought bravely by Ekto's side, while Sifa, the half-elf archer, fired 3 perfect arrows in rapid succession, each finding its mark. The fire mage unleashed blazing orbs, burning enemies to ash without mercy. Against a B-rank squad, the thieves stood no chance. The battle ended quickly. Some bandits survived, begging for mercy. But the half-dwarf suggested leaving them tied up to be eaten by monsters at night, a fitting punishment, in her opinion. The prisoners panicked, pleading desperately. Ekto said nothing, leaving the decision to the adventurers. Amanda, however, acknowledged Ekto's incredible contribution. She declared him an honorary companion of their party. Ekto was stunned, but also deeply proud. For the first time, his strength was recognized. He realized that just by envisioning what he wanted to achieve, his magic had answered him naturally. While they regrouped, Orim found survivors inside the wrecked wagons. Among them was Albedo, a merchant from the Glen capital. Relieved to be alive, he asked for help transporting himself and his cargo to the nearest town, offering payment. Ekto agreed, seeing it as an opportunity to broaden his knowledge. Amanda also decided to bring the captured bandits for bounty money. Another survivor emerged from hiding, a young girl named Lynn. Albedo explained she was his servant. The adventurers agreed she couldn't be left alone in the forest, and Ekto, too, couldn't abandon her. He greeted her warmly, but when he reached to remove a feather tangled in her hair, Lynn flinched and hid behind her master. Ekto felt a sting of disappointment, wishing to have spoken more with her. As the cart rattled along the rough road, Albedo grew curious. He asked Ekto directly, why was the young noble traveling so far, all the way to the remote western borderlands of Boda? When asked why he was traveling so far, Ekto guarded his secrets and simply said he was acting on Margrave Glenreid's orders. He even declared with pride that it was a great honor to become the lord of the village of Boda. Hearing this, Albedo couldn't hold back his laughter, joking that Ekto would surely be a promising ruler. The merchant then shared a startling rumor that not only dangerous magical beasts but even dragons were said to inhabit those lands. It was the first time Ekto had ever heard of dragons outside of fairy tales, and the news left him astonished. While the thought of them stirred a mix of fear and curiosity in him, it was Albedo's excitement about the idea that unexpectedly delighted him. The merchant quickly grew fond of Ekto, even asking if he could visit Boda every 3 months, claiming Ekto's presence made him feel safe. Surprised but touched, Ekto agreed, seeing it as the beginning of a genuine friendship. The carriage eventually brought Albedo and his maid Lynn to the nearest city. While Amanda and her team turned in the captured bandits, Ekto and Albedo discussed the rescue in detail. When Amanda returned, she handed Ekto his share of the reward money, which pleasantly surprised him. Albedo also offered a reward, but Ekto politely declined, saying he already had enough. Instead, the merchant did something unexpected. He offered Lynn to Ekto. He explained that she could read, do math, and manage a household, making her an ideal companion. Lynn blushed, yet showed no resentment. In fact, Albedo noticed she seemed to harbor affection for Ekto. Then, to everyone's surprise, the merchant tore up Lynn's contract on the spot, setting her free. He suggested Ekto could make a new contract with her if he wanted. But Ekto shook his head, saying there was no need. Lynn was now a free woman, and he had no wish to bind her. Instead, Ekto asked Lynn directly if she wanted to come with him to Boda. The young woman, deeply moved by his kindness, said that if Ekto would allow it, she wished to live under his protection. Grateful for her freedom and touched by his mercy, she declared her desire to stay by Ekto's side forever. The young earth mage was overjoyed at gaining a new companion and thanked Albedo sincerely for everything. All that remained was to continue their journey until they finally reached their new home. Time on the road passed quickly, and before long, half a month had slipped by since Ekto had left the Grande capital. As the young lord's carriage drew near Boda, they stopped in several small towns along the way. The roads grew more suspicious, and Amanda quietly released a subtle aura to check for dangers ahead. Then Orim suddenly turned back, bringing grave news. The village of Boda was under attack. A ferocious band of orcs had surrounded the settlement, and its wooden fences wouldn't last much longer. Everyone knew that orcs were classified as D-level monsters, far too strong for ordinary people to handle. Nora nervously asked what to do, but before Amanda could answer, Ekto insisted they rush to the village and fight. Amanda, however, stopped his reckless impulse. Their mission was only to escort Ekto. Fighting orcs wasn't included in their pay. Realizing she was right, Ekto made an offer, 1 gold coin for every slain orc. With the reward on the table, the adventurers agreed, and the hunt began. Ekto asked Lynn to stay behind in the carriage, assuring her he would return once the danger was over. Meanwhile, the villagers struggled desperately to hold the walls, their elder Anji leading the defense. Just when all seemed lost, Ekto and the adventurers struck from the rear in a surprise attack. The villagers cheered as orcs began to fall. Ekto unleashed his earth magic, raising massive walls of soil and crushing stones down upon the invaders. What looked like the limit of an earth mage's strength was nothing more than warm-up for him. Even surrounded, he combined spells with swordsmanship, cutting down foes one after another. Amanda was astonished. She had thought Ecto was only a mage, but he revealed he had also trained in fencing under elite instructors hired by his father. Amanda only joked that he shouldn't take too much of their spoils, to which Ecto promised he'd be generous. When the fight was over, Orym hurried to gather the orcs' magic stones, all 24 of them. Amanda said they'd count for the promised reward and explained the crystals could also be sold for profit. Ecto kept half and gave the rest to the adventurers as thanks, winning their respect. Elder Anji then thanked Ecto for saving the village. When Ecto introduced himself as Boda's new lord, appointed by Margrave Glenreed, the elder was stunned. After reading Ecto's sealed letter, Anji declared to the villagers that their savior was indeed their new master. The people rejoiced, and Ecto vowed to turn their broken village into a proper town. The elder gave him a tour, and Ecto was struck by the sight of collapsed houses, dead fields, and weary faces. Yet he reassured Anji that it didn't matter, he would rebuild everything. Offered a plot of land, Ecto immediately used earth magic to form a sturdy stone house from countless bricks. In just 15 minutes, a strong and beautiful home stood where empty land had been, leaving the villagers in awe. Amanda admired the house and asked if he could build one for her team as well. Ecto reminded her their mission was nearly over, but she revealed they had no desire to return to the capital. Living under a capable lord, in a village with no competition from other adventurers, was far more appealing. Ecto was pleased, knowing their presence would strengthen the village's security. He agreed to build a house for them and then focus on upgrading the rest of the settlement. The next day, he announced plans to rebuild every structure. Orym's talents as an earth sorceress proved invaluable. She could raise walls, lay floors, and handle the toughest construction tasks. Together, they rebuilt the walls with clay and planned iron gates. Ore was abundant, and though the iron supply was low, it was enough to get started. Ecto used his earth magic to purify and transform the ore, applying a unique method he had devised himself from knowledge he once gained in Japan. By the end, all the village's iron had been used. With it, he forged sturdy gates for Boda, then handed the rest to the blacksmith Birkin to manage. After such a long day, Ecto and Orym finally decided to rest and share a meal, since they hadn't eaten since morning. Lin greeted him at the door in a maid's outfit, announcing lunch was ready. Ecto was surprised, reminding her she was free now, since their contract had ended. But Lin admitted she wanted to stay and care for him, choosing to serve as his maid of her own will. Before he could answer, Orym pushed them along, insisting they start dinner. Still, Ecto wanted to refresh first. Lin offered to bring him hot water, but Ecto stopped her and instead gathered everyone in the garden. There, he revealed a new idea. Using geological magic, he surveyed the land, probing nearly 500 meters deep until he found the perfect spot. Then he dug a wide pit, shaped it with stone, and crafted a subterranean chamber. Moments later, hot water burst from below. He had created an open-air hot spring. The girls watched in awe as steam rose into the air. Ecto sank into the warm water, proud of his creation. To him, true luxury was bathing in a hot spring built by his own hands. Orym joined him right away, and though Ecto felt awkward at her boldness, he stayed quiet. Soon Lin stepped in too, offering to wash his back and massage him. Amanda and the rest of the adventurers arrived shortly after, teasing him for enjoying a bath while forgetting about weapons and work. Before long, the entire group joined in, much to Ecto's irritation. Still, their laughter left him no choice but to give in. The next day, to satisfy everyone, Ecto built a proper public bathhouse for the village, which delighted the locals. But there were bigger problems. The soil of Boda was barren and unable to grow crops. Elder Anji explained they had already tried mixing in forest earth, but it never worked. This was why the villagers starved year after year, surviving only on weak monster meat. Ecto, determined to solve this, asked them to bring just a cart of forest soil. The villagers were shocked. It seemed too little, but Ecto explained his plan. By combining even a small amount of fertile soil with his earth-enhancing magic, he could boost the land's nutrients. Following his instructions, they mixed the soil, and Ecto poured his magic into it. In minutes, the once dead fields turned rich and fertile. The villagers were stunned, praising him for achieving what they thought impossible. Ecto downplayed the compliments, reminding them that teamwork mattered more than gratitude. Still, the people were overjoyed, certain they could finally grow vegetables again. Just then, Ecto thought he spotted an orc and panicked, but it turned out to be Orym and Doreen in disguise, returning from a hunt. Laughing, they revealed their spoils, 3 orcs and a massive boar. With this, the village now had enough meat to last weeks. Amanda described the hunt with pride and demanded a fair reward, so Ecto handed over 4 gold coins. Their cooperation was paying off. The adventurers hunted monsters while Ecto rebuilt the village. Amanda was surprised when Ecto offered to train local hunters and travelers, explaining that the villagers not only needed food but also wanted revenge against the creatures of the forest. As part of the deal, he promised Amanda all the magic stones collected for monsters. She gladly agreed, realizing this arrangement benefited everyone. The people would have food and security, while her team gained wealth and purpose. Ecto was pleased, and Lin handed him a list of 45 strong candidates, aged 14 to 30. He proposed splitting them into groups for training in archery, swordsmanship, and spear fighting. The half-elf Sifa surprised Ecto with her determination, insisting she would train the new recruits in Boda archery and swordsmanship. Her quiet nature made her dedication even more striking. Ecto didn't hesitate to approve her as a mentor. However, when Amanda learned Sifa, half-elf archer, was going to be a mentor, she panicked and pinned Ecto to the wall. She told him that she would not argue, but would never allow Sifa to train the novices. Ecto asked if she feared Sifa's beauty would distract them, but Amanda only warned him not to underestimate her. Ecto realized he still knew far too little about these travelers. Sifa, for her part, impressed Ecto with more than her looks. Her hair shimmered like deep emeralds, but her heart was as kind as her appearance was striking. When training began, she revealed herself to be a strict but wise mentor. Over the next 3 months, she allowed the students to call her ma'am. The local boys initially thought she was joking, but a single sweep of her arm demonstrated that she meant business. Fear quickly replaced amusement as they realized her gentle demeanor could transform into ruthless authority. Anyone careless or disrespectful would face her wrath. The students obediently shouted, "Yes, ma'am," and began grueling runs around the village. Ecto watched, reminded that in battle, even ordinary people could change completely under the right guidance. Over the course of 3 months, the former recruits became seasoned hunters, forming a special unit. After a threat-free patrol report, Ecto thanked them and advised occasional rest. Soon, the village sent word of an approaching wagon. Ecto, curious, hurried to the wall to see. It had been months since any visitors arrived, but through his telescope, he immediately recognized the familiar silhouette, Albedo, the cheerful merchant they hadn't seen in a long time. Ecto invited him into his home and treated him to tea and delicacies. Albedo had arrived exactly 3 months after he promised. He apologized for the slight delay, explaining business matters had held him up. Seeing the village, Albedo was struck. It was far better than rumors suggested. He marveled at the nearly new-story houses, the green fields, and especially the sturdy walls and iron gates. Ecto was pleased by his friend's words, grateful for the merchant's encouragement. Albedo joked about whether it was Ecto's magic or just his skill that made the village so prosperous, and Ecto assured him he had no plans to stop there. The merchant, excited to get down to business, clapped his hands theatrically. Young men carried in large sacks full of goods Albedo had brought. Following his report, Albedo had sold essential supplies, converting them to money, and purchased nearly all the magic crystals and monster materials collected by the villagers. Thanks to this trade, the village of Boda was noticeably wealthier. Albedo was surprised by the amount of purchase and saw the commercial potential immediately. He suggested setting up a trading post, and Ecto agreed. The villagers would welcome their first shop. They organized quickly. Albedo proposed a 20% sales tax, but Ecto generously lowered it to 10%. The merchant hesitated over construction costs, but Ecto insisted he would build the shop himself. Ecto also asked Albedo to set fair prices. After some discussion, the merchant agreed, and Ecto suggested they start work at the site where the first Albedo store would be installed, the heart of the village. The main street ran right through the heart of the village, always bustling with people, a perfect spot for a new shop. When Albedo asked when construction would start, Ecto proudly said it would begin immediately and take just 20 minutes. The merchant laughed, thinking it was a joke, his laughter echoing down the street. But when the shop appeared out of nowhere in half an hour, Albedo could hardly believe his eyes. Ecto suggested consulting Orem about the interior. She was a master at bringing any vision to life. Albedo was thrilled and admitted the village never failed to impress him. All that was left was to move the goods and contact a certain person. Just then, a cat girl burst into the room, curious about what needed doing. Albedo voiced his request, then offered the position of shop manager to Kay. The little cat protested at living in a remote village, but Albedo promised a generous reward, and her mood instantly shifted. She insisted the job was hers alone and thanked Ecto for the opportunity. And so, the first shop in Boda village officially opened, with Kay as its proprietor. A few days after Albedo's departure, chaos erupted. The soldiers on the walls were the first to notice. A huge crowd of terrified refugees poured toward the village. Bells rang, alarms sounded, and the entire settlement braced for danger. Amanda and her band of adventurers immediately readied themselves. Ecto, curious, rushed to the walls. Using his binoculars, he saw the desperate villagers were being chased by goblins, fast on their heels. Ecto ordered the gates open, letting the refugees flood in, then commanded they be shut immediately to prepare for the goblin attack. He turned to the adventurers and tasked them with eradicating the goblins. Amanda vowed to give everything she had, as always. Outside the gates, the team formed battle lines, ready to strike. Those trailing behind had to rush to keep up. Among the fighters, the Earth Mage Ecto summoned a sturdy barrier of stone. The goblins were clever, darting and dodging, but the half-elf Sifa's arrows took down the most aggressive ones with precision. Sifa's volleys rained down from the walls, and skilled hunters kept the monsters at bay. Soon, the battle turned into a full-scale battle. The hunters Ecto and Sifa had trained proved they were now formidable defenders of Boda. Fire magic from Amanda, Doreen, and Orem supported the team expertly, while Ecto blended earth magic with his swordsmanship to devastating effect. The village gained serious military strength, ready for any monster threat. But then, Amanda noticed something odd. Even after defeating half the goblins, their fighting spirit hadn't broken. In most cases, the monsters should have retreated long ago. Lost in thought, Amanda failed to notice danger creeping up behind her until Ecto appeared just in time to warn her. She leapt aside, narrowly avoiding disaster. Suddenly, the Goblin King appeared, throwing everything into chaos. Amanda froze, unsure how to respond, as massive fireballs hurtled toward them. The Goblin Mages and Generals quickly counterattacked, seizing the initiative, and the battle intensified. Amanda quickly realized the Goblins' growing aggression came from reinforcements hitting the battlefield. The adventurers and the squad leaders decided it was time to take down the Goblin King and protect the village. Amanda lunged forward, dodging the Goblin King's attack and landing a clean strike with her sword. A roar of agony echoed beyond the village walls as the severed hand of the Goblin King hit the ground, finally releasing the witch's door from his grip. Raging, the Goblin King tried to retaliate, but Ecto wove a precise earthen web, stopping every move. Seeing the perfect opportunity, Amanda signaled for a full team strike. With their leader gone, the remaining goblins panicked and fled. The village was safe. The adventurers returned, welcomed by Lin's tearful embrace. Among the refugees was Redan, who introduced himself as the acting head of the nearby village of Bauk. Ecto asked about their actual village chief. Redan explained that the goblins had slaughtered the elder and many villagers, leaving the settlement in ruins. The young lord immediately offered his walled, fertile estate as a safe haven, with Anji's full support. Redan was overjoyed, and soon the population of Boda swelled with new arrivals, giving the village a powerful boost. Following the villagers' wishes, the church from Bauk was relocated to Boda. Father Bassini expressed deep gratitude, and Ecto felt proud seeing people granted a second chance. But then, Lin burst in, looking anxious. Ecto told her to wait, promising he would listen. The girl, trembling, tried to explain her feelings and apologized for her clumsiness. Ecto asked if the old rule barring slaves from attending church had troubled her. In this world, slaves like Lin faced constant discrimination, especially in Grendel. Now, Ecto broke the old rules, assuring her she was no longer a slave and would never be scorned again. Overcome, Lin's tears flowed, mixing joy and frustration from her past suffering. She couldn't find peace, but for the first time, hope seemed possible. After the divination ritual, Amanda was surprised to see Lin had mastered light magic. Ecto explained that her ability to cast healing spells was proof of her newfound power. Amanda, feeling a touch of envy, offered Lin a place on her team with triple pay, but Lin refused without hesitation, declaring her true loyalty was to Ecto. Amanda, stunned by the refusal, felt a pang of disappointment. Ecto, keeping the mood light, asked about the hunting results. He reminded Amanda that while food was essential, she needed to pace herself and protect her strength for the dangerous hunts ahead. Amanda agreed, promising to adjust the schedule. She also reported that they had discovered orcs rebuilding a hidden settlement deep in the forest and were planning to clear it out. Signs pointed to the orcs having driven out the goblins, and Ecto suspected the presence of an orc king. Amanda added that these orcs had been abducting women. She recounted one dramatic rescue herself, a woman held captive by orcs, barely alive, and tragically pregnant with Orc's child. Even after saving her, the trauma was too much, and the woman ultimately took her own life. Ecto shivered at the story, realizing the depth of the orcs' cruelty. Little Orem, ever cheerful, assured everyone that no one had been abducted this time, and Ecto expressed heartfelt thanks to the adventurers for keeping the village safe. That evening, a meat festival celebrated their victory, fresh orc meat for every villager. Laughter and ale filled the streets as the community enjoyed together. Meanwhile, Ecto focused on strengthening the village's defense. Under the half-elf Sifa's strict guidance, hunters from Bauk underwent grueling training to match her legendary skills. Every recruit strove to equal their mentor, pushing their limits under her unconventional methods. Ecto recalled the transformation of past hunters, knowing this effort would pay off. As the village celebrated, Amanda, drunk and boisterous, teased Ecto and Sifa for skipping the drinking contest. Laughing, she spoke of the magical creatures around Boda and the village's growth, hoping Ecto could someday turn it into a true town. The two talked long into the night about cooperation, village improvement, and future expeditions. Amanda, now asleep, reminded Ecto of how far she had come, from despising him to supporting him fully. Watching her, he felt deep gratitude. With spring warming the land, Ecto and his squad set out for the forests at the edge of the Upkel Mountains to gather resources. The expedition aimed to collect mithril and other rare metals, boosting Boda trade and production. Orem, ever daring, scouted ahead toward a hill resembling a green dragon's back. Amanda, spotting the looming shape, warned everyone of potential danger. The hill moved. A massive green dragon appeared, furious at the intruders. To everyone's shock, Ecto could hear the dragon's thoughts. Dragons in this world communicated telepathically, with intelligence rivaling humans. The young Earth Mage, relying on diplomacy, apologized and explained their mission to reach Mount Upkel. The dragon's piercing gaze assessed him, questioning if such a small man could survive in a monster-filled forest. Ecto met the gaze with calm confidence, fully aware of the dangers ahead. The dragon, intrigued, tested them, hurling stones from the sky. It declared that if Ecto managed to conquer Mount Upkel, their paths would inevitably cross again. Despite the peril, Ecto felt awe and excitement, delighted by the extraordinary companion he had just encountered and the incredible journey ahead. With those words, the great green dragon vanished into the clouded sky. The adventurers breathed a collective sigh of relief, Amanda laughing at their luck in avoiding an invincible foe. She reminded everyone to stay vigilant to prevent similar dangers, and the group pressed onward, their caution heightened. After a week of grueling travel, they finally emerged from the forest. The cold mountain wind swept around them, the peaks of the Upkel Mountains looming ahead. Surrounded by jagged rocks, Amanda wondered where Ecto would search for ore. The young Earth Mage assured her he needed time to examine the area and promised he would report back once he found something valuable. Using his magical geological survey, Ecto soon discovered a promising vein of mithril. The party agreed to climb to a higher cave to investigate. The ascent was treacherous, rocks crumbled beneath little Orm's hands, nearly sending her plunging into the abyss. Terrified but determined, she pressed onward, silently vowing never to look down again. At last, the travelers reached the summit, where massive gates marked the entrance to a mysterious cave. Ecto's foresight in preparing torches proved invaluable, and Amanda agreed they were essential for any cave expedition. Doreen admitted the cave stirred strange sensations, a feeling shared by all. The cave's walls seemed eerily uniform, as if man-made, and the adventurers suspected they were not the first to enter. A fork in the path forced them to choose a direction. Orm sensed the mithril vein lay to the left, a route showing signs of recent use. Suddenly, a stone shot from the shadows, striking her. A coarse voice demanded to know who dared trespass. A red-haired dwarf soon emerged, asking their identities. Ecto introduced them as travelers from Boda and Falsford. The high dwarf, Donovan, marveled at their survival through the forest and warmly hugged Ecto, despite his own bones creaking. He explained that his proud race rarely interacted with outsiders, spending their lives mining mithril and adamantine, metals more valuable than most human weapons. Amanda was awestruck at the dwarves' tools and craftsmanship. Donovan invited the adventurers to meet his clan, leading them into the high dwarven settlement. There, the party encountered Galgon, the stern clan leader. His expression, and that of his people, was far from welcoming. Galgon declared the mountain belonged solely to the dwarves, any intrusion was a grave mistake. The adventurers' warm reception evaporated instantly. Despite the tension and the warriors' readiness to act by force, Ecto calmed the party, insisting they remain diplomatic. He explained their mission, they sought only to find vein and hoped for a mutually beneficial arrangement to mine resources. At first, Galgon roared in disbelief, Upkel's treasures had always belonged to his people alone. Ecto clarified that they had no intent to seize anything by force, proposing fair cooperation instead. The offer caught Galgon's attention, giving Ecto hope that a peaceful understanding might be possible. For the sake of the village's future, he knew it was wise to pursue a careful alliance with the stern dwarfs before moving forward. Chief Dwarf was considering Ecto's proposal when sudden shouts rang through the cave. A frightened dwarf rushed in with alarming news. Deep within the caverns, a killer spider had captured residents, including children. Its nest perched impossibly high, leaving the adventurers scrambling for a plan. Seizing the chance to mend relations with the dwarves, Ecto and the party resolved to defeat the spider and rescue the captives. Amanda charged first, her sword striking true, but the massive creature remained unharmed. Sifa loosed a volley of arrows, while Orm attempted to reach the cocoons with earth magic, forming ledges in midair. Yet the spider's webbing was too strong, and Ecto became ensnared, his arm trapped. Just as disaster loomed, Donovan swung his mithril axe, freeing the young lord in a single, powerful motion. Donovan explained that the spider's threads were too elastic for ordinary weapons, offering his superior mithril gear to the adventurers. Equipped with the dwarf-forged weapons, the group now had a real chance. With renewed determination, they launched a full assault. Arrows flew, swords clashed, and earth magic formed barriers and platforms. The spiders were slaughtered, and the kidnapped children were rescued, tears of joy streaming as they ran to their parents' arms. The dwarves, witnessing the heroes' skill and bravery, acknowledged their error in underestimating the adventurers. Ecto reminded them that victory would have been impossible without Donovan's help, and the dwarves gratefully accepted his words. With mutual respect established, Ecto proposed a trade agreement. The village needed mithril, and he wished to do so fairly, without force. Galgon, the dwarven chief, found Ecto's honesty compelling. One elder embraced him, praising his courage, and declared that a celebration would be held, complete with wine and song. But there was a challenge: if Ecto could outdrink the dwarves, a formal deal would be struck. The young lord soon realized dwarves had extraordinary alcohol tolerance. The celebration erupted in song, firelight, and laughter, with spirits flowing freely. Ecto drank cautiously, bottle after bottle, summoning every ounce of willpower. Despite staggering nausea, he perceived. After hours, empty bottles littered the ground, and astonishingly, the dwarves' chief was the first to collapse. Amanda gave Ecto an approving nod, impressed by his determination. Ecto finally succumbed to exhaustion, falling asleep amid the contest. The next morning, Ecto awoke with a terrible hangover, surprised to find the party ready to continue their expedition. A powerful roar echoed from a newly discovered cave, and Donovan began surveying the area while the others rested. It soon became clear that the dwarves had begun clearing a blocked mine, employing explosive charges to break stubborn rock. A dwarf demonstrated the process, setting the charges and instructing everyone to take cover. Seconds later, a thunderous explosion shook the cavern, sending stones tumbling. The adventurers watched in awe, marveling at the dwarves' advanced techniques. Amanda, Orem, and Doreen were stunned. Doreen even speculated that such power could fell dragons. Ecto, still recovering from his hangover, could only marvel at the ingenuity and strength of his new allies. Doreen had planned an spell explosion even stronger than dynamite, but Amanda persuaded her to stop. Ultimately, the sorceress had only wished to prove her power, and perhaps challenge the dwarves. Once calmed, Ecto explained that Doreen's magic far exceeded ordinary blasts and noted her surprising competitiveness. He clarified that the dwarves' explosive technologies was an ancestral secret, entrusted only to their most skilled artisans. Ecto suspected that, like him, a reincarnated human may have developed the dwarves' advanced techniques. Its power was such that secrecy was wise, keeping others unaware. As Ecto wandered through the cave, he noticed an unusual fragment of metal. Donovan was astonished. It was a shard of rare adamantine. Even for a master like him, discovering such a treasure was extraordinary. Ecto pondered whether, by studying its composition, he could replicate adamantine as he had with iron ore. The travelers marveled at the brilliant metal, and Donovan explained that explosions often revealed hidden treasures. Then Donovan requested Ecto's sword. Examining it, the red-haired dwarf noted it had been badly damaged in yesterday's battle with the spider, still usable but far from optimal. As a gesture of gratitude for rescuing the children, Donovan promised to forge Ecto a new sword from the finest adamantine, and a mithril weapon for each adventurer. Thrilled yet skeptical, Ecto accepted the offer, watching Donovan work with masterful skill. The new weapons were flawless, sharp, elegant, and perfectly balanced. The team rejoiced, confident that these tools would make them even more formidable. Turning to Gargan, the dwarven leader, nursing his first hangover after the drinking contest, Ecto confirmed the trade deal. Mithril would be exchanged for the best human alcohol, carefully priced to honor Nifril's value. Gargan, satisfied, ordered the travelers' bags filled with ore, and Ecto promised that one day they would repeat their splendid feast. Before departing, Donovan expressed a desire to explore the human world and become a better blacksmith. Ecto praised his unrivaled skill, calling it vital for the growth of the settlement. The travelers prepared to leave, and Orem promised to visit the dwarves again. Gargan teased Donovan about a rematch in drinking, and the red-haired dwarf welcomed the challenge, whether win or lose. Amanda, remembering Ecto's ordeal, resolved to avoid such unpleasant situations in the future. As they descended from the mountains, the party faced 3 saber-toothed panthers. Now armed with mithril weapons, they were ready, but cautious, mindful of the nearby green dragon's territory. Ecto recalled the dragon's promise to meet again and warned the group to proceed carefully. The red-haired dwarf, however, laughed. The creatures were nothing more than kittens worthy of a warm greeting. Despite the warning, the panthers attacked. Amanda led the charge, her strikes precise and lethal, while Ecto and the others marveled at her skill. Magical stones dropped from the beasts, but Ecto decided not to collect them. Extra weight would slow the party. Donovan, noticing Orem struggling with her load, carried her sack himself, then helped the others with their burdens. Suddenly, he surged ahead, calling over his shoulder, "Until next time." The unexpected sprint startled the travelers. Orem accused Donovan of stealing the mithril, while Ecto could barely comprehend the dwarf's speed. Amanda, determined, raced after him, intent on reclaiming the precious ore and teaching the mischievous dwarf a lesson. Their pursuit was interrupted by a deafening roar. The green dragon had noticed the commotion and appeared, majestic and terrifying. Yet Donovan greeted it warmly, as if it were an old friend. He explained that the dwarves revered the dragon as a forest goddess, offering small mithril tributes in gratitude. Amanda, still suspicious, accused Donovan of theft, but the dwarf clarified the misunderstanding and transferred half the mithril ore to the dragon, which devoured it with evident pleasure. The green dragon, satisfied with Donovan's honesty, praised Ecto for his careful leadership and promised assistance in the dangerous forest. Donovan decided to live among humans, a choice the dragon found unusual but respected. Before departing, the dragon entrusted Ecto with a portion of its strength, symbolizing friendship and trust. The travelers finally returned to the village, where a joyous Lynn embraced Ecto, relieved at his safe return. She inquired about their companion, and Donovan was introduced as a skilled dwarf who would one day become the village's finest blacksmith. Birkin, the local blacksmith, was thrilled to learn from Donovan, becoming his first human apprentice. Sifa requested enhancements for her hunting weapons, and Orem offered spider silk from the dwarves' cave, which Sifa gratefully accepted. After parting ways with Donovan, the group visited Kay's shop to arrange mithril deliveries. Ecto kept the source secret, jokingly deflecting Kay's curiosity. Trade preparations were underway, and Ecto ensured Albedo would be notified for large shipments of alcohol. Finally, Ecto returned home, greeted by long-awaited comfort. A hot bath, a hearty meal from Lynn, and a real bed at last awaited him. As he drifted into sleep, he resolved that tomorrow he would begin building a home for Donovan, and hear in full the tales of the village's happenings during his absence. Lost in thought, Ecto nearly drifted off to sleep, but his rest was abruptly interrupted. A gentle softness and a pleasant fragrance roused him. When he opened his eyes, all traces of drowsiness vanished. Lin lay beside him. She apologized, explaining that she had missed him terribly and simply could not resist gazing upon his sleeping face. Ecto reassured her, insisting she should blame herself for nothing, explaining that the surprise of seeing her so close had simply caught him off guard. Lin smiled and asked for a moment of attention, but Ecto complained of feeling unwell, his heartbeat quickening. She insisted it was nothing more than nerves and began expressing her joy at their reunion. A few days afterward, the merchant Albedo arrived in Boda. Ecto greeted him warmly and apologized for the long journey, but Albedo showed no displeasure. He was simply glad to see his old friend again. The merchant explained that he had received a message from Kay and had decided to deliver the shipment of alcohol personally. Ecto was grateful, the timing could not have been better. Albedo expressed amazement at Ecto's success in extracting mithril and asked if he had found a new mine. Ecto hesitated, unsure how much to reveal, and quietly shared only that he had journeyed to a desolate mine, requesting the merchant's discretion. Albedo agreed, noting that such ventures were normally reserved for experienced adventurers. Ecto admitted he had faced real danger several times. The village owner thought to himself that reaching the dwarves' cave that way was too risky and decided to build an underground tunnel directly to the mine which he would keep as secret. Ecto also explained that only he and 5 other adventurers knew the exact location of the coveted mine, limiting the amount of mithril they could extract and transport. Albedo reassured him that even with modest amounts, the profits would remain excellent. He asked Ecto not to discuss mithril supplies with other merchants and offered to cover transportation costs while lowering essential goods prices for locals. Ecto agreed, trusting Albedo's discretion, and the two solidified a personal trade agreement. Ecto could now conduct business independently, without his father's permission. With mithril sales set to begin, Ecto knew he had to proceed carefully to sell quickly and profitably. Within months, the trade drew the attention of the Chancellor of Falsford. Alphonse Granville, perplexed by the market's sudden surge in mithril, investigated the matter diligently. Despite a thorough search, no useful clues emerged. The rare metals supply kept increasing, and the trade routes were cleverly concealed. The Albedo Trading Company remained the central link, and any site visited by an Albedo representative drew special attention. The Chancellor's thoughts were interrupted by a soft, pleasant voice. His granddaughter, Lillian, stepped into the room. Her presence had a way of dispelling even the darkest thoughts. Alphonse inquired why she was still awake so late. She confessed that she suffered from insomnia, deeply worried about her grandfather's declining health. Alphonse reassured her, explaining that he had been overwhelmed with important matters, as a chancellor often was. Lillian suggested they discuss the problems together, promising to keep everything secret. Alphonse paused, considering that sharing the information with his perceptive granddaughter might provide fresh insights. He explained that mithril trade had recently surged in the capital's market. Lillian, with childlike innocence, wondered if this was a good thing, since now anyone could buy as much as they wanted. The weary old man explained that lords were required to report new mines to the government, but no word of the recent mithril deposits had reached them. This made the situation highly unusual and in need of careful investigation. Lillian asked whether reporting the mine's location would reduce profits, but Alphonse disagreed. He explained that cooperating with the government could actually bring unexpected benefits. Whoever discovered such a magnificent mithril mine could earn royal honor and kingdom-wide fame. Lillian agreed with her grandfather that there was little reason to keep the discovery secret. Alphonse added that the company supplying mithril primarily routed its trade through lands governed by Margrave Glenreed. According to maps, only the Boda villages were located there, surrounded by impenetrable forest. Founded to extract resources from the vast border woodlands, the project had largely failed, and the village had been nearly abandoned. It was hardly surprising that rapid development in the region might conceal something greater. Perhaps, indeed, a mithril deposit lay hidden there, unknown even to Margrave Glenreed. A secret deal between an Albedo merchant and the discoverer of the mine had kept the truth hidden. The Chancellor considered informing His Majesty about the discovery. Lillian inquired about nearby border posts. Alphonse explained that setting one up would require written permission from the local Margrave. He also noted that if news of the mithril discovery reached the public, supplies from the village could be jeopardized, a decidedly undesirable outcome. With pride, Lillian declared she had found a way to help her beloved grandfather. Alphonse, confident in his granddaughter's abilities, was eager to hear her plan. Lillian trembled slightly, uncertain if her idea would truly interest him. Nevertheless, she visited the village incognito, determined to unravel the mystery of Boda village's mithril business. The Chancellor, wary of discussing serious matters with a child due to her unpredictability, hesitated, but Lillian, confident and resolute, pledged to assist him. When she set her mind to something, persuading her otherwise was impossible. She was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, mithril mining continued without interruption. Donovan noted that the newly constructed underground tunnel had greatly simplified the transport of the heavy ore. The adventurers immediately recognized how much time could be saved using the tunnel. Sif observed that the absence of monsters in the tunnel allowed her to focus entirely on moving the cargo. The straight tunnel from Boda to the open lands stretched over 50 kilometers. Ecto had built 3 rest areas inside the tunnel and even constructed a special exit leading to the Green Dragon, allowing him to deliver mithril directly from Mount Upkeal. Every 500 meters, ventilation shafts ensured a constant flow of fresh air, and the walls were lined with luminous plants to provide natural light. Torches were always on hand as a backup. True to his promise, Ecto consistently supplied the dwarves with high-quality booze. Albedo, pleased with the arrangement, became the nation's primary mithril supplier. Though demanding, 2 months of hard work had already yielded impressive results. When the adventurers and Ecto eventually surfaced, they parted ways, each returning to their respective paths, satisfied with the progress they had made. The treasure seekers had hidden the mithril in a secret cache, and the young lord thanked them before returning to the village. Upon arrival, he noticed a peculiar, discreet carriage unlike anything owned by the villagers. It resembled a noble's rather than a rural cart. Unfazed, Ecto set off for home, hoping finally for some rest. However, word soon spread that a messenger from the neighboring lands of Viscount Advance had visited the estate. The mysterious carriage had delivered this envoy shortly before Ecto's own return. Lin explained that, since the master was absent, the letter had been left at the village elder's Anji residence. Ecto, surprised by the unexpected visit, decided without hesitation to read it. Ecto had never met him and recalled no prior correspondence, so he was curious about the stranger's intentions. The letter addressed Ecto as the Margrave's 3rd son, congratulated him on his growth and prosperity, and expressed a wish to stroll through the village with Advance's daughter. News of Ecto being an Earth Mage had already spread through the capital, though his father had revealed nothing of the exile he had imposed on his son. Ecto realized that if Viscount merely wished to observe the village, a personal visit was unnecessary. Given Viscount's ties to his father, it seemed clear he intended to enter Boda without the elder knowing. Perhaps the people of Viscount Advance had noticed irregularities in mithril distribution and traced them to the village of Boda. Yet Ecto's father had taken no action. If Advance had indeed traced Albedo's company, this would explain his interest, a shrewd and cunning strategy. Remaining calm, Ecto felt confident that his secret underground hideout would remain undiscovered, leaving no trace for outsiders. Seeing this as an opportunity to learn more about his neighbor, he decided to cultivate a new acquaintance. Ecto prepared an invitation, expressing that the Viscount was eagerly awaited in the village of Boda. A messenger was entrusted with delivering it, setting off immediately to reach the Viscount without delay. A few days later, an excited Lin burst into Ecto's room with news. A carriage had arrived, escorted by a detachment of cavalry. Ecto immediately realized that the neighboring Viscount, whom they had invited, had come at last. He announced the arrival of a distinguished guest and ordered the gates opened, though Ed, the captain of the hunters, waited for Ecto's explicit permission before unlocking them. Ecto personally greeted the visitors, introducing himself and welcoming them to Boda. The coachman's astonished expression revealed they had not expected such imposing walls and a formidable gate guarding the village. The first young woman to step out of the carriage was similarly taken aback. Ecto surmised she was the daughter of the nobleman mentioned in his letter. For a small village on the outskirts of the country, Boda's outer wall was remarkably impressive, providing effective protection against monster attacks. Curious, the young woman asked if Ecto had built it himself. He explained that the village was bordered by a dangerous forest, and without the wall, monsters could easily threaten the villagers. For this reason, constructing the outer wall had been the settlement's top priority. Captivated by his explanation, the girl wondered if Ecto truly was the local lord, as he appeared far too young for such a position. Ecto confirmed that he was indeed the steward of the village and assured her that he was ready to answer any questions she might have. Lillian gazed intently into Ecto's eyes, revealing the weight on her mind. She realized that this young lord was the source of her beloved grandfather's anxiety. Recalling Chancellor Alphonse's cautionary words, Lillian knew she had to act carefully, despite her confidence. Deep down, she could not tolerate Ecto's innocent demeanor, which hid the secret dealings surrounding mithril distribution. Determined, the Chancellor's granddaughter set out to uncover the origin of the rare metal reserves. Escorted by Viscount Advance, she was gently reminded to introduce herself and behave courteously. Ecto apologized for any fatigue the young noblewoman might feel after the long journey. Lillian immediately adjusted her demeanor, becoming polite and amiable. Ecto humbly described his village as unremarkable but hoped that Viscount Advance and his daughter would enjoy their stay. The Viscount thanked him and requested assurance of their safety. At that moment, the guards reported monsters approaching. Dire wolves were rapidly advancing along the main road. Without hesitation, Ecto ordered the main gates closed and instructed everyone to prepare for a potential attack. Lillian watched as Ecto delegated command to Captain Ed, who took charge of the archers. A deadly hail of arrows rained down on the wolves, fired with precision and tireless determination. Meanwhile, Viscount Advance's carriage had safely passed through the gates, which promptly closed behind it. The Viscount thanked Ecto for his swift action, expressing surprise at the coordination of the defenders, only to learn from Ecto that they were local hunters, not official guards. Ecto explained that local hunters protected the village from monsters. Captain Ed soon reported that all dire wolves had been wiped out, astonishing the Viscount's daughter, Lillian. She immediately noticed that Ed's armor was crafted entirely from mithril, an incredibly rare and costly material, and admired the skill required to produce it. Lillian apologized, acknowledging the expense and recognizing the difficulty Ecto faced in equipping the village. Ecto admitted he had overdone it. His intention had been to maximize defense, but the conspicuous mithril armor had likely drawn unnecessary attention. Ed introduced himself as the captain of the hunting expedition, impressing the guests with his sense of responsibility. The captain explained that only the most skilled warriors wore mithril armor, given the dangers of the forest. Lillian was speechless at the remark, while Ecto smoothly changed the subject, inviting the guests to visit the hot springs for rest, a suggestion they eagerly accepted. Ecto silently thanked Ed for helping to distract the guests while keeping the village's defenses secret. Later, the cavalry and hunters returned to their garrison, leaving the guests at Ecto's house. Lillian and Viscount Advance marveled at the hot springs, praising Ecto for the improvements and inviting themselves to return any time, noting the provision of fresh towels. Lynn prepared dinner, welcoming questions and offering care, earning heartfelt thanks from Lillian and her father. After a long journey, the Viscount and his daughter finally relaxed, enjoying dinner in the comfort of their rooms. The following morning, Ecto guided them through the village. The guests admired expansive vegetable fields, explored neat paths, visited a shop run by a cat girl, and ended the day with baths and dinner. They went to bed enjoying their time. However, Lillian recalled her true purpose. She was here to investigate the origin of the mithril. She resolved to share her initial findings with her grandfather. She had been enjoying Boda village to the fullest, forgetting her purpose. During breakfast, she complimented Lynn for her cooking as Amanda and her party announced plans to go hunting. Curious, Lillian asked who these unusual warriors were. Ecto explained they were Advanced Wings, the village's elite adventurers. Surprised to learn that only 5 adventurers protected the settlement, and that all were women, Lillian immediately declared her intention to join them on the hunt. The declaration left Boda, Ecto and the Advanced Wings team genuinely astonished. But Lillian stood firm, reassuring her father that everything would be fine. A top graduate of her magical school, specializing in water magic and powerful freezing spells, she confidently insisted she could handle any monsters. Lillian, observing the village, concluded that nothing else of note remained. The high walls and hot springs no longer held any allure, and it was time to explore beyond the village limits. For Lillian, however, joining an adventurer's party seemed a magnificent escapade. Ecto intervened slightly, warning her not to underestimate monsters. Real battles were far different from lessons at school. Yet Lillian insisted she would not give up, reminding him that she had 5 capable friends by her side and her advanced magic at her disposal. Ecto realized that Lillian was just a spoiled rich girl, unable to fully grasp the gravity of his warnings, though he acknowledged her enormous potential. Hoping she might learn caution after facing a real monster, he allowed her to join the hunt, warning her of the risks and instructing her to stay close. In turn, the Viscount apologized for his daughter's stubbornness, admitting it often defied reason. To Ecto's surprise, Lynn also volunteered to join the hunting expedition, explaining that her restorative magic might prove essential. Ecto appreciated her foresight and willingness to assist. Once preparations were complete, the courageous group, now including Lillian, set forth into the treacherous forest. Scouting duties fell to Orem, the nimble half-dwarf, who was tasked with finding the weakest demonic beasts for the team. She accepted, though she grumbled at the challenge of babysitting an aristocrat's spoiled daughter. After some time in the forest, Orem spotted a foul-smelling orc and judged it an ideal target. With swift precision, she hurled a stone that struck true. As the group enjoyed the calm of birds singing in the forest, Lillian was captivated by the peaceful surroundings, though Amanda resented how the young noblewoman's presence seemed to lull everyone into a false sense of security. The calm was soon shattered. Orem's cries rang out as she rushed toward the group with urgent news. 3 massive, magically enhanced orcs were approaching, furious and intent on revenge. Ecto immediately ordered his team to prepare for battle, but Lillian insisted she could handle the threat herself. She began weaving a freezing spell with graceful movements, tapping into the highest levels of water magic. A surge of hissing water blasted at the enraged orcs, instantly encasing them in gleaming blocks of ice. Lillian, still unsatisfied, unleashed a frigid wind that shattered the frozen monsters into sparkling fragments, leaving Ecto and the adventurers in awe. For the first time, Lillian had tested her powers in real combat, and succeeded spectacularly. Ecto admitted he had underestimated her. Lillian had proven herself a true sorceress, vanquishing 3 ferocious orcs with a single spell. Yet, instead of resting, she was exhilarated and eager to continue hunting, insisting they pursue more dangerous monsters. Every creature they encountered fell instantly to her magic, each victory heightening her delight. Throughout the forest, Lillian's boundless energy and extraordinary skill left everyone amazed, her freezing spells unfailingly defeating every threat in their path. Lillian was ecstatic after defeating so many monsters, but her ease soon made her reckless, lost in the thrill of her own magic. Amanda warned that the noise could attract stronger foes and urged retreat, with Orem supporting the caution. Ecto, sensing danger, called out that a powerful demonic beast was approaching. Fearless Lillian, however, refused to back down. "Retreat is not in my vocabulary," she declared. "I will face any monster." Already renowned as the top student at the famed School of Magic, her power far exceeded what Ecto and his companions had anticipated. The Chancellor's brave granddaughter charged at the towering B-rank trolls, determined to prove her full potential. Once again, a reckless noble mage attempted to freeze a troll with magic, but this time, the plan failed spectacularly. The giant troll effortlessly deflected the icy stream with its formidable hand. Lillian could hardly believe her magic had been so easily countered. For the first time, the confident young aristocrat panicked as the enraged troll charged directly at her. Fortunately, the brave half-giant Nora arrived just in time, blocking the troll's assault with her shield and ordering Lillian to retreat. The other adventurers rushed in to assist. Amanda's swift sword strikes left the trolls vulnerable, while Sifa's precise arrows inflicted heavy damage. Thanks to their teamwork, Lillian was kept safe. The battle, though fierce, was brief. Mithril weapons proved so extraordinary that even colossal monsters could lose limbs with a single blow. Determined to finish the fight, Lillian unleashed her strongest fire magic in a massive explosion, forcing everyone, including herself, to flee from the epicenter of roaring flames. Once at a safe distance, Ecto checked on her, noticing her shaken state. Still catching her breath, Lillian assured him she was fine, apologized to Lynn for causing trouble, and thanked her for the rescue. Lynn offered healing magic, and Ecto, now composed, was relieved that no lives had been lost. But danger was far from over. Distracted and anxious, Lillian stepped carelessly near a steep drop. Lynn, closer to her, leapt to save her, and both girls tumbled downward. For Ecto, it was the most terrifying moment of his life. He felt utterly powerless. As they fell, a gust of magical wind suddenly swept around them, slowing their descent. Lillian sensed the wind's magic and knew salvation was near. She thanked Sifa, the half-elf, who explained she could only slow the fall. A manual rescue was still needed. Orem quickly reported the situation to Ecto. The girls were gliding toward tall trees, thick with foliage, and there was a risk of them getting stuck among the branches, which unfolded exactly as predicted. Lillian landed with a jarring thud on the sturdy branches, grateful that Sifa's magic had prevented a mortal injury. After a brief rest, she realized she was perched atop a massive tree, at least 10 meters above the ground. Now she needed to find a safe way to descend, and decided that carefully climbing down the branches and trunk was her best option. However, descending proved far more difficult than Lillian had anticipated. At that moment, Lynn called out urgently. Startled, Lillian gestured for her to stay quiet, but confusion clouded her mind as Lynn's face grew increasingly anxious. Slowly, Lillian grasped the danger. Looming before her was the enormous head of a fearsome cyclops, its single unblinking eye fixed on her, sending a wave of true terror through the young aristocrat. Panic swept through Lynn, but Ecto acted immediately. Leaping to the ground, he called upon Sifa's levitation magic for assistance. No sooner had he touched down than he rushed toward Lillian, determined to confront the monstrous foe. Yet the Cyclops was faster. It had already seized Lillian in its massive grasp. The terrified noblewoman attempted to cast a freezing spell, but the giant beast seemed utterly impervious, tightening its grip until a chilling crack echoed through the air. Without hesitation, Ecto hurled himself at the creature with his adamantine blade, severing its arm and greatly diminishing its ability to resist. Meanwhile, Sifa's levitation safely lowered Lynn from the tree, leaving her shaken but unharmed. Realizing the danger and urged retreat, while Ecto requested restorative magic for the unconscious Lillian. Lynn rushed to aid the young aristocrat, but Sifa intervened, assuring them she would tend to Lillian herself. Meanwhile, little Orem summoned the power of Earth, hurling a massive boulder at the Cyclops. Though the creature deflected most of the impact, it became momentarily disoriented. Amanda and Nora seized the opportunity, striking with sword and shield in perfect coordination. Amanda's mithril blade severed the Cyclops' leg, immobilizing the beast. Despite the victory, danger remained. The Cyclops swung a massive stone, striking Ecto with a thunderous blow. At the same time, Doreen unleashed her explosive fire magic, but the flames only enraged the monster further. Bloodied yet still formidable, the Cyclops seemed unstoppable. The adventurers acted with precision. Orem slashed repeatedly with her dagger and struck the Cyclops' neck with a wind blade, leaving crimson scars. Using earth magic to gain leverage, Ecto climbed high, delivering a series of devastating blows that severed the Cyclops' remaining arm, thanks to his exceptional adamantine blade. Even as the beast lunged, Ecto cut off its fingers, lost his balance, and fell, only to be safely guided by Sifa's levitation. The adventurer's plan was clear: distract the Cyclops, allowing Ecto to strike its most vulnerable spot. Amanda emerged fiercely from beneath debris, declaring the creature her personal enemy. Inspired by her determination, Ecto surged forward with renewed vigor, the group joining in a united assault. At last, the coordinated efforts succeeded. Lillian, still unconscious, was revived by Lynn's restoration magic. Weak but conscious, she inquired how long she had been out, and realized she had missed witnessing the most extraordinary part of the battle. Only now, seeing the colossal, lifeless body of the Cyclops, did Lillian grasp its true size and the danger she had narrowly escaped. Relief washed over her as she realized the adventurers had defeated the monstrous creature. Ecto asked whether she now understood just how perilous the forest near his village truly was. Lillian's eyes reflected a newfound respect for the threat. Even with the adventurers united, the battle had been incredibly dangerous. Seasoned warriors had barely managed to overcome the Cyclops. She realized that wandering these lands without caution was reckless. Her limited knowledge of offensive spells left her vulnerable, and the forest was no place for carelessness. The young noblewoman apologized to all the adventurers and their companions. Ecto acknowledged her sincerity, praising her honesty and reassuring her that escaping serious injury was what truly mattered. He emphasized the growing danger in the forest and insisted they return to the village. Lillian accepted Len's offer of assistance, grateful as pain from her legs slowed her steps. Doreen suggested taking the Cyclops' valuable body, but Ecto decided it was wiser to return quickly. The forest's demons could handle the corpse. Eager for rest and a hot bath, the travelers made their way back. Meanwhile, Viscount Advance could find no peace. Time had passed since the hunt began, and he worried endlessly for his daughter. At last, Lillian returned, recounting the entire ordeal to her father. Overcome with emotion, Lillian burst into tears, comforted by the Viscount. Ecto, realizing he now had the attention of the royal family, reflected quietly as Lynn tended to Amanda. That evening, everyone enjoyed a relaxing hot bath after dinner, expressing gratitude toward Ecto for his rescue. The young lord humbly insisted he had done nothing more than his duty. Viscount Advance reminded Lillian to share critical information with Ecto. In her agitation, she revealed she is not Advance's daughter, but the granddaughter of Chancellor Alphonse Granville, shocking Ecto and the adventurers alike. Ecto remained unsettled by Lillian's identity, wondering why the granddaughter of the Chancellor was in his remote village. Lillian explained that rare mythil had recently begun appearing in the royal capital. Her grandfather had traced its distribution back to Boda village, prompting her to investigate in secret. She expressed astonishment at the restored village, its towering walls, and the skilled hunters armed with rare mithril weapons. Lillian had sought the source of the mythil but failed to uncover it. Ecto recalled how, during the monster hunt, they had nearly stumbled upon the underground tunnels, but Lynn had cleverly distracted Lillian just in time, avoiding disaster. After finishing her story, Lillian pressed Ecto for more details about the secret mythil distribution. Caught off guard, he realized she was now questioning him. She explained that her grandfather knew of the village's covert dealings and had sent her to investigate. Ecto understood that officials were aware, and that mythil sales needed urgent restrictions to prevent further leaks tracing to Albedo. Despite boasting of powerful connections, marrying the Chancellor's sixth daughter and commanding an estate equal to his father's, Lillian's ally, Advance, had chosen to befriend Ecto in the village boat. Ecto welcomed the alliance, seeing it as a crucial link to the Chancellor. He decided to trust Lillian in Advance, promising full disclosure. Meanwhile, in the dangerous forest, crows scattered as a fearsome winged monster appeared, its shadow darkening the land like that of a dragon. The beast turned its attention to the massive Cyclops corpse, absorbing its power with terrifying ease. A surge of energy and wisdom coursed through the creature, heightening its strength. With powerful beats of its wings, the dragon gained speed, locking its fierce gaze upon Boda village. Fire and destruction seemed imminent, the beast posed a threat capable of inflicting irreparable harm on the unsuspecting inhabitants. Inside Ecto's home, Lynn served a cup of tea to the Viscount. He thanked her politely, and she returned the gesture with a small bow. Once she withdrew, Ecto began explaining the matter that had drawn their curiosity, mithril. It's true, Ecto said. We discovered a mithril vein in the Upkeel Mountains and brought the ore back to the village. We negotiated with the native high dwarves who guard the vein and received a share from them. At the mention of dwarves, both the Viscount and Lady Lillian looked surprised. They had heard of dwarves before, but never of anything called high dwarves. Ecto reminded them that Doba, the blacksmith at the weapon forge, was one of them. He examined the ore for us. That revelation shocked them even more. Doba was a gentle-looking, bearded man, and they had already seen his exceptional craftsmanship. In hindsight, it made perfect sense. Ecto continued, high dwarves are a rare race with outstanding mining and smithing abilities. To avoid conflict, we trade using their favorite foods in exchange for ore. After purchasing the mithril, you sell it exclusively to the Albedo Company, Lady Lillian interrupted, already understanding the rest. They distribute it to the royal capital. Ecto nodded. You figured it out. My grandfather keeps a close watch on the capital, Lady Lillian said with a faintly proud tone. Ecto explained that Boda village had long-standing ties with Albedo. They were the only company that visited the village regularly, and over time, a strong relationship had been built. Lady Lillian agreed. With Albedo's vast distribution network, tracing the mithril's true origin would be nearly impossible. That explained everything. Still, Ecto's expression darkened. Even so, the Chancellor discovered it in the end. He couldn't help but imagine how Albedo might react when they learned of this development. Chancellor Granville was sharper than he had expected, someone Ecto wished to remain on good terms with going forward. Shifting the discussion, Ecto moved to the core of the negotiation. Most of the Upkeel Mountains remain untouched. There's a strong possibility we'll discover more veins. The Viscount raised an eyebrow. Are you planning to monopolize mithril in Boda village? Not at all, Ecto replied firmly. I don't intend to monopolize it. I want this village to be the gateway. The Viscount understood immediately. Control the flow of trade. He laughed loudly. Ha ha. You don't miss a thing, do you? I'll report it to the Chancellor that way. Ecto felt relieved. The negotiations were proceeding as he'd hoped. He clenched his fist quietly in satisfaction. But then the Viscount asked a single question that caused his expression to darken. This would bring great merit to the royal family. Why keep it hidden? Ecto hesitated. His voice trembled, confusing his guests further. If I report it to the royal family, he said softly, my father, the frontier Margrave, will find out. If he learns of the vein, he'll force large-scale mining without hesitation. The dwarves would be driven from their home, and I'd be removed from Boda and reassigned elsewhere. Lady Lillian stood in shock. No way. You're the one who developed Boda village this far. That isn't fair. It can't be helped, Ecto replied quietly. My father has always been like that. He clenched his fist, grimacing. I'm currently banished. Amanda instinctively reached out to comfort him, while Lynn looked on with tearful eyes, wanting to do the same. Suddenly, Lillian stood up. She walked over to Ecto and, to his surprise, knelt in front of him. She grasped his hand with both of hers. Tears streamed down her face, startling him. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't mean to bring up something so painful. I barely know your father, and I've only just met you, but everyone here, including me, is on your side, Lord Ecto. Please don't be sad. 2 more hands joined theirs. Amanda and Lynn stood beside them, their expressions firm with resolve. Ecto was deeply moved. With a gentle smile, he apologized to the 3 of them. Seeing him smile again, they all let out quiet sighs of relief. The Viscount stood and made a proposal. What if Lord Ecto were granted a noble title by the royal family? Ecto froze. A title? Are you serious? The Viscount nodded. Chancellor Granville and I will sponsor you. With a royal title and official appointment, your father won't be able to interfere so easily. The idea brought Ecto great relief. It would protect both him and Boda village. However, the Viscount added after a pause, there is one condition. A portion of the mithril ore must be delivered to my territory. Ecto considered it. His contract with Albedo prohibited trading with other companies, but direct dealings with the Viscount weren't restricted. There would be no breach. I agree, he said without hesitation. They shook hands. Both stood to gain greatly from the arrangement, securing Boda village's future and granting Ecto true authority, free from his father's influence. Suddenly, a loud voice called out from outside. Lord Ecto! Lord Ecto! Ecto opened the door to see a guard standing at attention, clad in full mithril armor. It was Ed. What is it? Ecto asked. Bad news? A magical beast has been spotted outside the wall, Ed reported. A fire dragon. Ecto's blood ran cold. What? It's flying toward Boda village, carrying the leg of a massive beast. What are your orders? Ecto immediately understood. The giant leg, it had to be from yesterday's Cyclops corpse. He clenched his teeth and rubbed his forehead. He had assumed another beast would deal with it. He never expected a dragon. This was beyond his expectations. Gather the hunters, Ecto ordered. Intercept it before it reaches the wall. Defend only, do not initiate an attack. Understood. Ed shouted, saluting before running off. Ecto turned to Lynn. Get the villagers to shelter. Tell them to hide in the underground areas of their homes. Lynn nodded and rushed off. Ecto then opened the concealed underground passage and addressed the Viscount and Lady Lillian. Please go down the stairs to the underground storage. Stay hidden until the battle ends. Lady Lillian hesitated, but the Viscount urged her forward. Before entering, she turned back. Lord Ecto, may victory be yours. I promise I'll return, Ecto said. He closed the underground door behind them. Amanda was already equipping her armor, calm and composed like the veteran adventurer she was, unlike Ecto, whose nerves were fraying. I'm sorry, Ecto said. I dragged you all into this because of my carelessness. Amanda pulled him into her chest, nearly crushing the air from his lungs. What are you talking about, she said. I agreed to this too. Everyone makes mistakes. You don't have to carry everything alone. This village matters to us as well. She gently patted his head while he struggled to breathe. We'll win this, she said confidently. Her calm assurance steadied him. Ecto nodded firmly. We'll protect Boda village, no matter what. With a thunderous roar, the fire dragon descended toward Boda village. It flew at tremendous speed, but as it approached the village boundary, it sensed a sudden fluctuation of mana. In an instant, a massive stone wall erupted from the ground. The dragon halted midair, startled, hovering as it studied the unexpected obstruction. From below, Ecto waved his hand. Hey! Sorry to startle you, fire dragon. The dragon's gaze shifted toward him. We don't want to fight, Ecto shouted. You can have the Cyclops corpse. Please turn back peacefully. Do you understand us? The dragon stared down at him with irritation, its expression filled with open disdain. Receiving no response, Ecto frowned. Can it not understand human speech? Maybe only green dragons can. Before he could think further, flames gathered inside the dragon's mouth. What? A deafening explosion followed. The fire blast struck the ground, hurling Ecto and Amanda violently away from their positions. They slammed into the earth as fire spread across the battlefield. Thankfully, neither of them was seriously injured. Amanda quickly got back on her feet. "Everyone okay?" Orem and Sifa responded with strained signals. They were hurt, but still able to fight. Nora, the half-giant, had raised her shield at the last moment, blocking the attack and protecting the mage Dorian behind her. "Thanks," Dorian said, breathing heavily. A heavy thud echoed across the ground. Ecto froze. Slowly, he looked up. The fire dragon had landed nearby, its massive legs shaking the earth as it roared. Smoke seeped from its mouth as it spoke, not aloud, but directly into their minds. "Lowly humans, giving me orders? How foolish." Ecto stiffened. "Telepathy, so it understands us after all. Weren't you only here for the Cyclops corpse?" Ecto asked. "That is true," the dragon replied coldly. "I desire the beast's flesh. But then I noticed you vile humans constructing a disgusting village in this forest. There is no place for human settlement here." Its eyes narrowed. "So I decided to personally crush this village into the ground." "Why?" Ecto asked desperately. "Why do you hate humans so much?" Instead of answering, the dragon lashed out. Its tail whipped toward him at terrifying speed. Ecto barely leaped aside in time. That was too close. "Ecto!" Amanda rushed to his side, sword drawn. The dragon tilted its head. "That woman, she looks familiar." Both of them stiffened. "She resembles the foolish human who scarred my left eye." Amanda stepped forward, placing herself between the dragon and Ecto. She raised her sword and said firmly, "I don't know what you're talking about. I've never fought a dragon. I've never seen you before." The dragon replied casually, almost bored. "Ah, yes. It wasn't you. That one, I already tore her apart and devoured her. Not even scraps remained." Both Ecto and Amanda went pale. Negotiation was no longer possible. This was a bloodthirsty monster. The dragon laughed. She dared defy me without knowing her place. That was her end. The ragged breathing, the taste of blood, the screams. Truly a moment of bliss. Dorian clenched her teeth in fury and began chanting. Explosive flame. A massive sphere of fire surged forward. At the same time, Sifa launched a wind blade in coordination. But before either attack could land, a shimmering barrier appeared in front of the dragon. Both spells vanished on contact, completely erased without leaving a single mark. The reflected mana surged back. "Move!" Sifa shouted, grabbing Dorian and diving aside. The impact shook the ground violently. Ecto raised an earthen wall at the last moment, barely blocking the returning force. As the dust settled, Ecto noticed something lying in front of him. The Cyclops leg. The dragon sneered. "I brought that here to lure others." "What do you mean?" Ecto demanded. With a cruel smile, the dragon continued. "To crush you completely, I issued threats to the lower beasts. Goblins, wolves, all of them. Submit to me, or accept the one-eyed beast's flesh as payment and join the raid on this village." Its gaze shifted toward the distant stone wall. "Break that thick wall, and this place will burn in moments. The only question is, who reaches it first? You, or me?" Cuckoo. From the forest, shapes began emerging. Monsters. Ecto's heart sank. "I have to get back to the village, now." Even if Ed's team was holding the wall, he couldn't leave them alone. He placed his hand on his sword, readying himself. "I won't let you," Ecto said firmly. "I'll stop you right here, fire dragon." "How amusing," the dragon mocked. It spread its massive wings and took to the air once more. Flames gathered violently in its mouth. "I will reduce you to dust, without leaving even a single ash behind." The dragon unleashed continuous streams of fire, targeting Ecto and his group. Boom. Boom. Explosions erupted one after another as Ecto sprinted across the battlefield, narrowly escaping the blast radius. He thrust his hand forward. Earth net. Chains of hardened earth surged from the ground, shooting toward the dragon's head. Sensing the threat, the dragon tried to pull back, but at that moment. "Now!" Amanda leaped into the air from behind. Her sword was raised high as the earth net restricted the dragon's movement. She brought the blade down with all her strength. Slash. A long gash tore across the dragon's back. "TCH, too shallow," Amanda muttered, grinding her teeth in frustration. The dragon retaliated instantly. Its tail whipped around with overwhelming force. Amanda crossed her arms and soared to block, but the impact was far too strong. Gah! She was sent flying, crying out in pain as she crashed to the ground. From the flank, the half-elf archer Sifa loosed a volley of arrows. Her aim was flawless, each arrow streaked toward the dragon's eyes. Thwip! Both struck true. The dragon screamed in agony, letting out a furious roar that shook the air. Enraged, it turned its full attention to Sifa and charged. "Run!" someone shouted. Sifa fled at full speed, the dragon closing in rapidly. Its jaws snapped shut just inches from her as she dove aside at the last second. Suddenly, a massive rock tied with rope flew through the air. It slammed into the dragon's scales and latched on. Using the rope, Aurum vaulted onto the dragon's back from behind. Dagger in hand, she didn't hesitate. Before the dragon could react, she plunged the blade into its head. Take this. She stabbed again and again, relentless. While the dragon thrashed, Ecto rushed to Doreen. Are you all right? She nodded, panting. What the dragon said, it's true, Ecto said urgently. Boda village is in danger. Go back and help Ed and the others. Doreen didn't hesitate. Understood. At that moment. Boom. The dragon blasted upward like a cannon, shooting straight into the sky. Aurum was thrown off its body, falling from a terrifying height. Aurum. Doreen quickly cast a spell. Flotation. Aurum's fall slowed just in time. Nora rushed forward, catching her as they landed safely. Hovering above, the dragon snarled. Skittering pests, how irritating. Flames gathered violently in its mouth, far denser and more intense than before. I'll burn this entire forest down along with you. Suddenly, the dragon stiffened. Its eyes widened. A chilling aura washed over the battlefield. What, was that just now? Using the opening, Ecto slammed his hand into the ground. Earth pillar. Stone spires erupted upward as Nora raised her shield, bracing herself. The dragon snarled. Impertinent wretch. It unleashed another torrent of fire. Nora stood firm. Her shield absorbed nearly the entire blast, protecting Ecto behind her. The dragon stared in disbelief. Blocked. Furious, it lunged forward, attempting to seize Nora. But the moment it closed in. Over here. Amanda charged. She leapt forward, sword flashing. The dragon sneered and drew in breath again. You fool. But before it could finish, Ecto leaped. He soared above the dragon's head while it focused on Amanda. The fool is you. His blade flashed. Shriek. One of the dragon's wings was severed. The dragon let out an earth-shattering scream of agony. Roar. Its eyes burned with fury as it snapped toward Ecto. Before anyone could react, its jaws closed around him. Ecto! Amanda froze in horror. The dragon beat its remaining wing and took to the sky. Inside its crushing jaws, Ecto's mind went blank. I'm trapped. As the ground fell away beneath him, he realized he had no idea what to do next. The fire dragon, its shattered wing bleeding heavily, struggled through the air with Ecto clenched in its jaws. Ecto! Amanda screamed in panic. The dragon bit down harder. Crunch. Blood gushed out as Ecto cried out in agony. You filthy human, how dare you, the dragon snarled through telepathy. Too badly injured to fly at full speed, the dragon abandoned escape. Instead, it ascended higher and higher. Aurum and Sifa watched in horror, realizing its intent. It's going to, Aurum whispered. The dragon planned to smash Ecto into the ground at full speed. No, Sifa muttered. She raised her bow, pouring every last drop of mana into a single arrow. Wind surged violently around her. Tailwind. She released the shot. The arrow screamed through the air and pierced what remained of the dragon's left wing, the one already ruined by Ecto's strike. But the dragon didn't stop. Sifa froze. It didn't work. Her face drained of all color. Nora stared upward in disbelief. Ecto! Die, whelp, the dragon roared as it began its deadly descent. Inside its jaws, Ecto clenched his teeth, pain racking his body. He couldn't move. He couldn't think. Aurum covered her eyes, tears streaming down her face. Stop, please, stop. Then. Doom. Something massive burst forth from the forest. A colossal shadow swept across the ground, engulfing Aurum. Trembling, she slowly opened her eyes. She looked up. Her breath caught. Tears of relief spilled down her face as joy overtook her fear. A gigantic figure had seized the fire dragon midair, grabbing it like a small bird in its jaws. It was an earth dragon. Nearly 10 times larger than the fire dragon. The forest guardian, someone shouted. The fire dragon was completely overpowered. Its jaws loosened, releasing Ecto. He fell. Flotation, a voice cried. Magic slowed his descent just in time. Ecto landed hard but alive. Amanda and Aurum rushed to him. Are you all right? Amanda asked desperately. Barely, Ecto replied weakly, struggling to sit up. His legs were badly injured, blood soaking the ground. You're bleeding. Aurum panicked. Hold still, Amanda said firmly, removing her armor. I'll stop it. Above them, the fire dragon thrashed helplessly in the earth dragon's jaws. Grr, damn you, it growled, trembling as it tried, and failed, to break free. The forest guardian spoke, its voice ancient and calm. Survival of the fittest is the law of nature. But fire dragon, your cruelty has gone too far. I will not allow it to continue. The fire dragon snarled, gathering flames. Stay out of this, you decrepit relic. The earth dragon lifted its neck slightly. The fire dragon froze. An eye for an eye, the guardian said evenly. A tooth for a tooth. With terrifying force, it hurled the fire dragon deep into the forest. The dragon crashed through countless trees, its body tearing through the woods before landing far away. Guh, no way, gah. The earth dragon then seized a massive boulder, 3 times the fire dragon's size, and carried it effortlessly in its jaws. It placed the rock squarely onto the fire dragon's abdomen. A final scream echoed. Then, silence. Amanda stared, stunned. Did we get him? Ecto lay there in disbelief. All of them together had barely managed a single decisive blow. And yet this was the true might of the forest guardian. The green dragon. Far away, atop the village wall, a pair of eyes watched everything through binoculars. Rin. She saw Ecto fall, saw the blood. Her face drained of all color. Lord Ecto, she whispered, her voice shaking. The green dragon stood firmly beside the massive boulder, its weight pressing the fire dragon into the earth. Ecto raised his voice. Forest guardian, thank you for saving us. You arrived just in time. The ancient dragon snorted lightly. Think nothing of it. I was merely protecting my forest. For an old dragon, he really is a heartthrob, Ecto thought. I'll offer extra ore again soon, Ecto added. The green dragon's eyes lit up. Ho ho ho. I'll be waiting. The fire dragon, still pinned beneath the stone, let out a hoarse laugh. Ha ha, so the mighty green dragon is being fed by a bunch of filthy monkeys. No pride left in that decrepit body. Pathetic. That's wrong. Orem shouted angrily. You have no right to insult her. Ecto asked Amanda to help him stand. Supported on his feet, he faced the fire dragon. We humans live alongside this forest and its nature, Ecto said calmly. The ore is simply our way of giving thanks. Your actions cannot be forgiven, but I still believe humans and dragons can coexist. He raised his hand. Earth net. Chains of hardened earth erupted from the ground, binding the dragon's mouth and neck. The fire dragon stiffened, unable to move. Pointing his sword at it, Ecto continued. If you swear never to approach this village again, we'll let you go. Your wings will heal in time. Dragons were rare beings, creatures that appeared only a handful of times in an era. Ecto raised his sword above the dragon's head. Choose. Live, or be slain here and now. The fire dragon laughed with contempt. Ha ha. A lowly human showing mercy to me? Disgusting. With such naive thinking, you won't survive long in this world. Its eyes burned with hatred. I'll keep killing, those who chase me, those who flee, and of course all of you. I'll burn you all to ash. Die in hellfire, humans. Ecto's expression hardened. I see, he said coldly. That's a shame. His blade fell. The fire dragon's head hit the ground. The battle for Boda village continued. Doreen unleashed explosive flame, incinerating clusters of goblins. The sudden burst of magic stunned the enemy, forcing them to hesitate. Archers rained arrows from the walls while guards cut down goblins at close range. But they kept coming. Lady Doreen. Lynn shouted as she ran forward. Get down. Doreen yelled. Boom. An explosion erupted behind them. This is too dangerous, Doreen said. We can't fight while defending the gates. Get inside the walls. But what about Lord Ecto? Lynn asked desperately. We don't know what's happening out there, Doreen replied. We have to trust them. For now, we protect this village. Lynn nodded, though worry still clouded her face. Something felt wrong. The horde wasn't massive, but it didn't stop. At this rate, mana would run dry and the hunter's stamina would collapse. Then, a goblin whispered something. A portal opened. Several goblin wizards stood together, maintaining it. Suddenly, a sound echoed from behind them. One wizard pointed nervously. Is that the fire dragon? Something heavy dropped between them. Thud. It rolled to a stop. The fire dragon's head. Before either wizard could react, a blade flashed. One goblin wizard collapsed instantly, his head severed. The other froze in terror. That's far enough, Amanda said coldly. Your master is dead. You chose the wrong side. This is what happens when fear decides your path. She looked at the trembling goblin. Maybe there was no other choice for you. Her eyes turned icy. Think it over in the afterlife. The goblin wizard's fate was sealed. The battle was over. At the village gates, Amanda, Doreen, and Lynn waited anxiously. Slowly, Ecto was carried through the gates, supported by Sifa. Behind them, guards pushed a cart bearing the dragon's corpse. Orem walked beside it, still full of energy, with Nora following closely. Lynn's eyes filled with tears when she saw Ecto alive. Ecto grinned weakly and gave a thumbs up. Doreen returned it with a tired smile. When the dragon's corpse entered the village, the Viscount and Lady Lillian stood frozen in shock. The Viscount muttered, voice heavy. is a major incident. Carts rolled continuously through the village gates, each one carrying parts of the fire dragon. Soldiers pushed them tirelessly, one after another, the sheer number of carts making it painfully clear just how massive the monster truly had been. To prevent future danger, the Cyclops' corpse was buried deep underground. The fire dragon's carcass, however, was brought back to the village intact. Dragons were rare beings, so valuable that even a single drop of their blood was considered priceless. Meanwhile, Ecto's wounded leg glowed softly as white magic enveloped it. The torn flesh slowly knit together, the pain fading as the wound closed completely, without leaving even a scar. Ecto stared at his leg in disbelief. It's gone. He looked up at Lin. White magic really is something else. Thank you. Lin blushed faintly and shook her head. Think nothing of it, master. If you ever need me again, just call. Before Ecto could reply, a voice complained loudly from behind her. I've been trying to recruit you for my party forever, you know. Amanda crossed her arms in mock frustration. Lin turned without hesitation. No. Please give up on that idea. Amanda groaned. Then Lin stepped behind her. Now then, Lady Amanda, it's your turn for healing. What, wait, huh? Watching the two of them bicker so naturally made Ecto laugh. At that moment, Lord Ecto. He turned to see Lady Lillian and Viscount advance hurrying toward him. The Viscount was clearly out of breath. Are you all right, Viscountess Lillian? Ecto asked, surprised. Before she could answer, the Viscount grabbed Ecto's hands with startling enthusiasm. Amazing, truly amazing, he gasped. Slaying a dragon. Do you have any idea what you've accomplished? Ecto tried to explain. To be precise, most of the credit goes to the Forest Guardian. But the Viscount wasn't listening. This is monumental. We must report this, in the mithril vein, to the royal capital immediately. Prepare a carriage at once. Ecto blinked in his urgency. Lady Lillian gently explained. There's a law you may not know. Dragon materials are purchased by the crown first. What? Ecto said, shocked. After that, she continued, they're distributed throughout the realm. It made sense. Dragons were rarely slain, no wonder he'd never heard of the rule. Still, losing all those materials stung. Sensing his concern, Lillian took his hands gently. It's not all bad. I promise. The king will reward you, and it will help you greatly moving forward. Ecto realized what that meant. A noble title. Later that night, Ecto soaked in the hot spring. Ah, this feels incredible. I feel alive again. The exhaustion of the day melted away. He recalled how Lady Lillian had stayed behind in the village, while Viscount Advance departed for Fowls in high spirits. It'll take a month to reach the capital, the Viscount had said, waving enthusiastically. See you there. To preserve the dragon meat, Lillian had frozen it with ice magic, forming a massive block. Won't it melt? Ecto had asked. It's layered with magical insulation, she'd replied. It won't thaw unless I dispel it. Now, staring at his reflection in the water, Ecto's expression grew serious. We were lucky. Without the Forest Guardian, they would have been utterly defeated. The thought darkened his face. He splashed water onto it. No. I have to get stronger. I must. Suddenly. Guess who? Hands covered his eyes from behind. Orem, Ecto answered instantly. How did you know? Process of elimination, your hands are small, he said quickly, sweating. Orem tilted her head. Oh. Makes sense. Then Ecto realized something. Wait. He turned bright red and shut his eyes. Stop sneaking in here. Cover up, front and center. Orem laughed, blushing. Then. Something rose silently from the water behind him. Boo. Ecto jumped, flailing, his hands grabbing something soft. Ecto, came a teasing, breathy voice. You're squeezing a little too hard. Amanda stood there, hair slicked back, face flushed. You're bolder than I expected. Ecto screamed and threw his hands up. I didn't mean. Orem grabbed him from behind, laughing as Amanda joined in. The teasing continued until Ecto was completely overwhelmed. Pervy girls, he muttered weakly. Amanda finally smirked. I came to get you. Everything's ready. A feast doesn't start without its hero. A massive bonfire burned in the village square. Dragon meat sizzled over open flames as villagers gathered, laughing and cheering. The dwarf challenged everyone to a drinking contest, already several cups ahead and loudly boasting. Nearby, Ecto sat beside Lin, still red-faced. I didn't see anything, he murmured. I saw nothing, glorious peaks. Lin blinked, confused. Ignoring him entirely, Amanda raised her cup. Tonight, we celebrate protecting our village, and Ecto, becoming a true dragon slayer. Cheers. The roar of voices echoed into the night. The feast continued endlessly. Amanda drank against the dwarf. Villagers laughed. Orem danced wildly, earning thunderous applause. Ecto drank quietly, smiling. If I hadn't come to Boda village. If I hadn't met everyone here. I never would have known this happiness. This is my precious home. A peace he'd never felt back at House Glenreed. His grip tightened around his cup. I'll earn my title properly. I'll protect this land, and my companions. No matter who tries to take them away. Far away, the next day. The royal capital gleamed under a bright sun. Ships crowded the port. Merchants shouted. Birds soared above marble streets. At the city's heart stood the castle, vast, magnificent, visible even beyond the walls. A city of monuments and power. A sharp contrast to the quiet warmth of Boda village. And the stage where Ecto's fate would soon be decided. A little over a month had passed. Several carts, heavily guarded, moved in a long line toward the royal capital of Fowls, carrying dragon materials for official delivery. Inside one of the carriages, Ecto sat by the window, gazing outside. Wow, the sea is beautiful, Ecto said quietly. Lady Lillian, holding a map, nodded. Yes. We've already entered Fowls territory. The capital is just ahead. Outside, Aurum walked alongside the carriage, humming to herself. It's been so long. I can't wait to see the capital again. With all the trade that passes through, Amanda added, it's always lively. It's fun just walking around, Sifa said. There are so many rare things to see. Mage Doreen, driving one of the carts, chimed in, I really want to eat that capital specialty again. Nora, walking beside the cart and overhearing her, crossed her arms. Yeah. That stuff was seriously delicious. Listening to their excited chatter, Ecto felt a little surprised. Aurum glanced over. Is this your first time in the capital, Ecto? Yeah, Ecto replied. I've heard it's even bigger than Glenreed, the provincial capital. Lillian nodded. The capital has a population of over 3 million. 3 million? Ecto echoed in astonishment. Then he laughed lightly. That's huge. I might get lost. But Lynn, listening closely, felt a spark of excitement. This might be my chance to spend more time with Master. I've memorized the city map, she said confidently. There's no need to worry. Leave everything to me, Lord Ecto. Lillian stiffened. No, I'll be the one showing Lord Ecto around the capital. Please don't worry. No, I'm his maid, so I should. The two immediately started arguing over who would guide him, neither willing to back down. Trying to change the subject, Ecto spoke up. We're actually a little behind schedule. Since we stopped at every town and village to rest, it took longer. We could have arrived faster if we camped more. Amanda shook her head. No, that was the right decision. Why? Ecto asked. This is an official offering trip, she explained. It's better to travel openly and leave records behind instead of sneaking around. It looks more respectable. Ecto nodded. That makes sense. Still, the journey hadn't been uneventful. Bandits had tried to ambush them for their valuables. Monsters attacked along the roads. Once, a villager even assaulted them in their sleep. It made Ecto realize just how dangerous transporting something this valuable truly was. Albedo risks all this every time he comes to the village. I really should thank him properly. Suddenly, Lillian pointed ahead. Lord Ecto, there it is. Ecto looked up, and his eyes widened. Before him stood the royal capital of Fowls, a breathtaking city of ports, bridges, and towering buildings filled with countless people. Behind the massive city walls, at the very center, the royal castle rose high, majestic and overwhelming. Ecto stared, his mouth slightly open at the sheer scale of it. Fresh fish, goods, and fruits filled the streets. Merchants lined the roads, shops stretched endlessly, and the entire city buzzed with life. At the main gate, carts and people formed long, separate lines. The inspection checkpoints were crowded, just as one would expect of the capital. As their carts stopped in the queue, Aurum frowned. We have to wait? Lord Ecto, this way, Lady Lillian said, guiding him toward a separate route. A guard quickly noticed them. Halt. This passage requires a special permit. Do you have one? Lady Lillian searched her bag and produced a small dagger, its sheath bearing a crest. The guard froze. Seeing the emblem, his face went pale, sweat forming on his brow. Forgive us, Lady Granville. Please, go right ahead. As they passed through the gate, Ecto whispered, confused, what was that dagger? It bears the Granville family crest, Lillian explained. Only a few are permitted to carry it, so it serves as identification. Huh, interesting. Grandfather should have already received word of our arrival. You mean the Chancellor himself? Precisely. Several guards approached them. Welcome back from your long journey. We will now take custody of the dragon materials and ensure everything is handled properly. The Chancellor is expecting you. Please follow us. Ecto stiffened. We're meeting him now. The guard continued apologetically, I'm sorry for the sudden timing, but this was the Chancellor's request. Ecto began to panic. What about changing clothes? I'm filthy. Is it really okay for me to meet him like this? This is too fast, my nerves. Brace yourself. You'll be fine, Lillian said with a reassuring smile. They climbed a long flight of stairs and crossed a bridge leading into the castle. From there, the city below looked even more incredible. This meeting is the first step toward forming a proper alliance with the Chancellor, Ecto reminded himself. The rest of the group was escorted to a separate room, waving goodbye as Ecto and Lillian followed a different path. Soon, they stopped before a large door. This is the Chancellor's room, the guard said. Please, go in. Lillian knocked. Grandfather, I've returned. Enter, a voice replied from inside. They stepped in. Lillian greeted him formally. Thank you for coming all this way, the man said calmly. His gaze shifted to Ecto. And you must be Ecto Glenreed, I presume. Yes, Ecto replied, his voice tense. It's a pleasure to meet you. I am Alphonse Granville, Chancellor of the Kingdom of Falseford, the man said. Please, take a seat. Today may be the day your fate changes forever. Let's get straight to the point, the Chancellor said. I've already heard everything from Viscount Advance, about the mithril vein and the rest. He exhaled slowly. You managed to hide it well from the Margrave. I'll give you that. However, because of you, I've had quite the headache myself. The Chancellor sighed. Ecto immediately bowed. I sincerely apologize. Still, the Chancellor continued, transforming Boda village so drastically in such a short time requires remarkable talent. Besides, why would your father banish you to some remote frontier? I also heard you weren't even allowed to use the family name. His gaze sharpened. Your management skills are exceptional. And earth magic, used to that degree, is unheard of. Ecto hesitated. So he doesn't know the full extent of my relationship with father. From what I've heard, it sounds like a painful story, the Chancellor said casually, stroking his beard. But if the problem lies with you personally, then the story changes, doesn't it? His eyes narrowed, sharp enough to feel as though they were peering straight into Ecto's mind. Ecto froze. He's testing me. The pressure alone made it hard to breathe, like standing before an owl that could see through any darkness. It felt as though even the smallest lie, or half-truth, would be exposed instantly. How do I explain this? Suddenly. Please stop, grandfather. Lillian stepped forward, placing herself firmly between them. Both men froze in shock. Lord Ecto is not the kind of man who deserves your suspicion, she said sharply. He respects both people and nature. He risked his life to face magical beasts to protect his people. She clenched her fists. And he saved my life as well. Ecto's eyes widened. I was deeply moved by his words, she continued, and by how sincerely he cares for his comrades, regardless of status. His inner strength and kindness are just like yours, grandfather. I believe in Lord Ecto. For a moment, the room was silent. Then, the Chancellor smirked and burst out laughing. Just like me, huh, he said. You've got me there. Lillian and Ecto both stared, stunned by his sudden change in mood. The Chancellor leaned forward and lightly flicked Lillian's forehead. Comparing a boy who's barely reached adulthood to your grandfather? That's quite the compliment. That was just a figure of speech. Lillian protested. Hiya. Lady Lillian. Ecto panicked. The Chancellor gently patted his granddaughter's head. Well, it's rare for you to vouch for someone so passionately. That was my mistake. He turned to Ecto and bowed his head. In my position, I meet many kinds of people. I hope I didn't offend you. Then, more formally, thank you for protecting my granddaughter from the magical beast. Ecto flushed. I only did what I felt was right. As he straightened, Ecto noticed something on the table. Chancellor, is this another type of ore? Ah, yes, the Chancellor replied. Not as valuable as mithril. I mined it long ago. May I use it? Ecto asked. The Chancellor nodded. Go ahead. Ecto picked it up and began explaining as he worked. You may know the Glenreed family has produced users of all three magical elements for generations. However, the only magic I was granted was earth magic. The ore slowly reshaped in his hands. It may not look flashy, Ecto continued, but with the right application, it's extremely useful, even in combat. The ore transformed into a delicate flower sculpture. To my father, though, it was worthless. I was an embarrassment. I was disowned completely. The Chancellor examined the sculpture closely. This is impressive. You purified the ore using earth magic alone. Yes. I see. The Margrave takes great pride in his bloodline. Still, such harsh treatment. I don't see it that way, Chancellor, Ecto replied calmly. For a long time, I lived under house arrest. Being sent to Boda village gave me freedom. He smiled faintly. It may be remote, but I enjoyed building it together with everyone. In that sense, exile was more like a reward. Life is strange like that. The Chancellor smiled lightly. Very well. We'll keep the location of the mithril vein secret, on the condition that a fixed portion is offered to the royal family. That should satisfy His Majesty. Thank you, Ecto said, Bowie. There's more, the Chancellor added. The Glenreed domain is vast. The Margrave cannot manage all of it effectively. He paused. I'll recommend that the forest region be formally assigned to you as your own territory. Ecto's eyes widened. You'd go that far. You earned it. Slaying a dragon does not go unnoticed. With land of your own, you won't need the Margrave's approval to develop it. Ecto and Lillian beamed. Thank you for your generosity, Ecto said, bowing deeply. Then, Lillian hesitated. Grandfather, I'd like to stay in Boda village, if that's all right. Ecto froze. Lady Lillian? I decided before we left, she said quietly. Isn't the capital easier to live in? Ecto asked. I just like Boda village, she replied simply. The Chancellor smirked knowingly. You really seem to like Ecto, huh, Lillian? Grandfather, she blushed furiously. Ecto, meanwhile, remained completely clueless. I won't stop you, the Chancellor said teasingly. Blocking young love would make me the villain. Lillian turned redder. Ecto stared blankly. Then the Chancellor turned serious. My granddaughter can be a handful. Would you keep her close, if possible? I ask you as her grandfather, only if you're willing. Lillian peeked at Ecto nervously. Of course, Ecto said without hesitation. I'd be honored. I'll do everything I can to make her comfortable. Lillian beamed like an overjoyed puppy. Thank you so much. Both Ecto and the Chancellor thought the same thing. She's easy to read. The royal audience is scheduled for tomorrow, the Chancellor said. Everyone involved in slaying the dragon will attend. Understood. They bowed and exited. Phew, that was intense, Ecto muttered. I'll escort you back to your companions, a guard said. As they walked, Ecto turned to Lillian. What you said earlier. I didn't expect that. Thank you for defending me. Lillian's eyes softened. She grabbed his hands. I only spoke the truth. Suddenly. Ecto! Orym came running and hugged him tightly. Sorry to keep you waiting, Ecto said, gently patting her head. The room they'd been waiting in was luxurious, filled with snacks. Honestly, Amanda groaned, holding her head. I can't believe she wasn't nervous at all. I couldn't even swallow my tea. The others laughed. If we're done, Amanda said weakly, let's go out. It's suffocating in here. How about the city? Orym suggested. Perfect timing, Ecto said. The Chancellor recommended a place. Amanda's eyes lit up. A good bar? That man has taste. He meant a clothing shop, Ecto added. For tomorrow's royal audience. Everyone froze. Wait, Amanda said slowly. We're meeting the king too. Tomorrow? Yeah. He told me a bit ago. Amanda turned to flee, but Lillian grabbed her firmly. You helped slay the dragon, Lillian said. Of course you'll receive a reward as well. I never signed up for this. Amanda protested. This isn't about whether you want it or not, Lillian replied calmly. It's official. Now, Ecto said quickly. No need to panic. Sorry, Amanda, I know it's a lot all at once. It's fine, Amanda muttered. As long as you understand me, Ecto. Ecto shrugged. I gave up long ago. It's time you give up too. No. Amanda screamed. Well then, Ecto said, smiling faintly. Off to the main street. No. I don't want to go. They headed into the city, the horses slowing as they reached their destination. Ecto stepped down from the carriage and looked around. The capital really was enormous. Tall buildings stretched endlessly, streets branching like veins through the city. Even after seeing Glenreed, this place was on another level. They stopped before a refined shop marked by a bull boar sign, clearly no ordinary tailor. Take my granddaughter to my favorite tailor on South Street, Ecto recalled the Chancellor's words. You can't meet His Majesty dressed like that. He nodded to himself. Makes sense. I left my formal clothes back home. Lillian gestured forward. All right everyone, follow me. New clothes. New clothes. Orym bounced excitedly. Lynn hesitated, clutching her hands. Am I really allowed? The habit of restraint still lingered, former slave or not. We're meeting the king, Sifa said calmly. Proper attire is required. Amanda, meanwhile, was completely unresponsive. She's totally passed out, Doreen sighed. Nora and Doreen carried Amanda between them as they followed. As they approached the entrance, Lillian suddenly stopped. Something enormous blocked the doorway. She slowly looked up. A bull beast man, dressed in a pristine formal suit, stood before them. With a courteous bow, he spoke in a deep voice. Welcome, Lady Granville. We've been expecting you. It has been some time. I'm here to shop for these guests today, Lillian replied smoothly. Ecto stared in shock. So, the doorman alone looks like this? Inside, the shop was breathtaking, rows of elegant clothing, finely crafted displays, and mannequins dressed in styles he had never seen before. Wow. I've never been in a place like this, Ecto muttered. Orym nearly sparkled with excitement. A woman with goat horns, round spectacles, and a warm smile approached them. "Thank you for coming. We were informed by the Chancellor," she said. "We'll assist with all your tailoring needs today." She gestured to Ecto. "Please step onto the platform." The platform glowed faintly as he stepped on it. "Don't move," she instructed. She closed her eyes, then opened them again, pupils shimmering with magical light. Suddenly, glowing lines traced Ecto's body. "Ha!" He shivered as the magic scanned him from head to toe. The light vanished. "It's complete," the shopkeeper said, jotting down notes. "That's it?" Ecto blinked. "Already?" "Yes. Please choose your preferred fabric and design. Any embellishments can be added." "How long will it take?" Ecto asked. "About 15 minutes. 15 minutes? We pride ourselves on speed and precision," she replied calmly. "Adjustments are simple." Lillian smiled. "That skill never ceases to amaze me." One by one, the others were dressed. When they emerged, Ecto froze. Each of them looked stunning, completely transformed. Elegant, confident, radiant, nothing like their usual travel-worn selves. Then Ecto himself stepped out in a freshly tailored suit. "So," he asked hesitantly. "I don't look weird, right?" Lillian and Len stared. Their eyes sparkled. Their noses bled. "So cool!" Orem exclaimed. "You look amazing, Ecto." Ecto flushed. "You really think so? Thanks. I'll take this one," he said to the shopkeeper. Lillian reached for her purse, but Ecto stopped her. "I'll pay." He used his savings from the mithril trade to buy formal wear for everyone. Afterward, the Chancellor offered them lodging at his residence, but they politely declined. Instead, they stayed at a luxury inn Lillian selected, ending the day there. The next morning, "You will now have an audience with His Majesty, King Erland," a guard announced. "Please follow me." They entered the castle. It was the largest structure Ecto had ever seen, its scale overwhelming. They approached massive doors, guarded by armored soldiers. Inside was a vast hall. An empty throne stood at the center. "Remain bowed until His Majesty arrives," the guard instructed. They did. Footsteps echoed. A door opened. Someone entered. They did not look up. The king took his seat. "You may raise your heads." They looked up. "I am Erland, King of Falsford," he declared. At his side stood Chancellor Granville and Viscount Advance. "Ecto Glenreed. You have rendered great service, discovering the mithril vein and slaying a dragon." Ecto's mind went blank. I don't know what to say," he stammered, bowing repeatedly. "No need to be nervous," the king said gently. "The Chancellor has briefed me thoroughly. Speak freely." "Then thank you. It is the highest honor to meet your Majesty." The king smiled faintly. "Now then. In recognition of your achievements, Ecto Glenreed, you are hereby granted the rank of Baron." Ecto's breath caught. "Your land will include the undeveloped forest region and its surrounding villages. Devote yourself to its development and service to the kingdom." "I will do everything in my power to meet your expectations," Ecto said firmly. The king continued. "To the 5 B-rank adventurers of Advancing Wings, for aiding in the dragon's defeat, I promote you to S rank." The room stirred. Amanda bowed deeply. "We humbly accept." The king turned to Lynn. "You were formerly a slave, correct?" She froze. "I am told you now use white magic to aid Ecto and the villagers. Therefore, I grant you full citizenship within the kingdom." Tears streamed down Lynn's face before she even realized it. She knelt. Thank you so much, Your Majesty." Her voice broke. Ecto smiled softly. "A slave's registry is erased when they're enslaved. I could free her, but nothing more. Now, she has an identity. A future. This concludes the granting of rewards," the king said. "Then, send him in." Rand Glenreed. The name struck like lightning. Ecto froze. His face went pale. "Father?" His heart pounded violently as a silhouette entered the hall. He turned, fear, disbelief, and shock flooding his expression. His heartbeat wouldn't slow. Ecto's father had returned. Even after all these years, his presence alone shook Ecto to the core. A tall figure entered the hall, draped in a heavy cloak. Each step echoed across the chamber. The air grew so still that even breathing felt loud. The girls cautiously glanced up while maintaining their bows. None of them had ever seen Ecto's father before. As he reached the center of the hall, Ecto finally looked at him. His mouth fell slightly open. The man placed a hand over his chest and spoke calmly, without a hint of emotion. "Rand Glenreed. I have come at His Majesty's summons." The king nodded. "I have already heard the details." He continued evenly, "As Marquis of the Borderlands, you have been occupied and unable to properly develop the forest region. I should have anticipated that. My apologies." Ecto stiffened. The king turned his gaze toward him. "From this point forward, that land will be entrusted to your newly appointed Baron, your son." You will cooperate with him as both Marquis and father. Is that understood? The tension in the hall thickened. Everyone waited, wondering how Rand Glenreed would respond. After a brief pause, he answered without protest. I obey His Majesty's will. Ecto's eyes widened. That was it? The king gave a small, satisfied smile. Good. You have done enough. You may step out. Rand bowed slightly. Yes, Your Majesty. He turned and walked away. Ecto watched his father's back, searching for something, anger, regret, disdain. But Rand's face revealed nothing. The doors closed behind him. The king rose. This concludes the audience. I entrust the remaining matters to Chancellor Granville and Viscount Advance. Both bowed. Understood. The king departed. The moment the doors shut, everyone except Liliane and Lynn collapsed to the floor in relief. A hand reached out. Ecto looked up to see the Chancellor smiling faintly. Well done. Ecto accepted his hand and stood. He exhaled slowly. That endless audience is finally over. He had gained his title. His territory. His future. After discussing the finer details with the Chancellor and Viscount, they left the castle and returned to their inn. Night had already fallen. The next morning, as they walked through the streets of Fowls, Amanda spoke up. Only us from Advancing Wings were summoned. You guys could have enjoyed the city while we were busy. Ecto shook his head. I wouldn't get another chance to meet this person. Besides, I had something I wanted to ask. Amanda frowned. Ask who? They stopped before a massive building. The Adventurers Guild headquarters of Fowls. So this is it, Ecto muttered. The place was bustling, adventurers everywhere. Quest boards packed with notices. Catfolk waitresses delivering drinks. Others sharpening weapons, laughing, arguing. It felt more like a grand hall or luxury than a guild. Amanda stepped to the reception. We're Advancing Wings. Reporting in is summoned. The receptionist flipped through a ledger. Found it. You're the party promoted from B rank to S rank for slaying a dragon in the southwestern frontier. Correct, Amanda said. I'll inform the guild master. Please wait. Ecto murmured, normally the crown doesn't interfere with adventurer ranks, but since the king decreed it, the guild master wants to speak directly. Soon, the receptionist returned, smiling. Thank you for waiting. Please follow me. Guildmaster Marcos is expecting you. Liliane and Lynn stayed behind. We'll wait here, Liliane said. Ecto nodded and followed the party. As they moved, whispers spread through the hall. A dragon was slain? So the rumors were true? That party? All women? No way. Probably bluffed their way up. Dragons barely even exist. Amanda stopped. She turned slowly. Ecto reached out. Amanda. Too late. She faced the armored adventurer at the table. Bluffed, she said coldly. Want to test that theory? The man scoffed. What? Amanda stepped forward, eyes sharp. It's more honest than gossiping behind our backs. Come at me. She tapped her weapon. I'll even set my mithril aside. Wouldn't want to hear excuses later. The armored adventurer stood. You picked the wrong fight, girly. We've been A rank for years. You just crawled out of B rank. His teammates jeered. We'll let it slide this time, he said smugly. So scram. Amanda smiled mockingly. Flaunting rank like that just makes you look small. The man froze. We just got promoted too, she continued. So let's not embarrass ourselves, yeah. Thanks for the reminder, textbook small fry. Silence. Then. The hell did you say, he snapped. The hall erupted. A fight? Let's bet. The receptionist panicked. Stop this. Suddenly, she noticed someone behind her and froze. Ecto called out, Amanda. She raised a hand without looking back. No one interfere. I'll prove it myself. The adventurer snarled. Stay out of this. His teammates smirked. Crusher. Leader. Amanda's expression hardened. Get ready. If you're going to run, now's your chance, woman. They stared each other down. Amanda replied calmly. I've been slaying monsters in the frontier forest every day. Why would I run? Is that so? The adventurer stepped forward, cracking his neck. Then die here. He threw a punch. Amanda didn't flinch. She ducked low, the fist slicing through the air above her head. Take this. But he anticipated her movement and grabbed her hair mid-dodge. Humph. He yanked her forward, but Amanda planted her feet, twisted her hips, and smashed her forehead straight into his face. Crack. He staggered back, clutching his nose. Amanda followed up with a punch, but he caught her fist and slammed his own into her cheek. She skidded back a step. The adventurer lunged, grabbing her by the hips to pin her down. Amanda snarled. She hooked her leg behind his, grabbed his waist instead, and flipped him clean over her shoulder. The crowd gasped. She mounted him instantly and began raining punches down without mercy. Thud. 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 They traded blows at point-blank range, fists colliding, blood spraying. Are they evenly matched? No, wait. Amanda leapt back, spun, and drove a brutal kick straight into his stomach. Boom. The adventurer flew backward, skidding across the floor. He coughed, grinning wildly. Each hit from her feels like getting run over by a carriage. He wiped blood from his mouth, eyes shining. Raw. Unrefined. Pure brute force. Amanda frowned. Just like she said, fighting beasts every day. His cheeks flushed. I haven't felt this alive in years. This is fun. Amanda froze mid-kick. A chill ran down her spine. She stepped back slowly. Nope. The man trembled with excitement. This feeling, this is it. Heh, heh, heh. Not bad at all, he said breathlessly. Let's finish this. Let's make this the most exhilarating fight of our lives. No. Amanda vanished forward. Crash. A clean, merciless kick slammed into his temple. He dropped like a stone. Instant knockout. Silence. Everyone stared. Ecto rushed forward. Amanda, are you okay? She hugged herself, shivering. That was creepy. For a second, I felt something gross coming off him. Leader. His teammates rushed over. Another man with a headband covered his head. Again, leader? Ecto blinked. Again? The headband man sighed. He's strong, no doubt. But whenever he fights someone tough, his weird pleasure switch flips. Flashbacks flashed. Direwolf, too weak. Boring. Goblin King, fight me seriously or I'll kill you. Cyclops, oh ho ho, now this is good. More. Give me more. Back to reality. Amanda stared. Is he just a pervert? The unconscious man groaned. I'm not done yet. He tried to stand. Suddenly. That's enough. A glowing mana circle appeared above his head. HM? He collapsed instantly, snoring. Ecto stared. He fell asleep. A calm voice spoke. Defeating him in an instant, impressive. The speaker stepped forward. It seems your promotion was well earned, advancing wings. He turned to Ecto. Nice to meet you, Baron Ecto Glenreed. I oversee the Adventurers Guild headquarters. I am Marcos. Cleanup began immediately. Despite the incident, Advancing Wings' S-rank promotion was officially recognized. Guildmaster's office. A guild branch in Boda village? Marcos mused. Yes, Ecto replied. The undeveloped forest still has many monsters. I want adventurers to help clear it. Marcos nodded slowly. Many want to hunt there, but without a nearby base, they avoid it. Exactly. Boda village is developing rapidly. It can serve as a base. Adventurers would energize the village. Resources would flow. Marcos smiled. A win-win. If that's your wish, Baron, I'll approve it. Ecto stood and bowed deeply. Thank you very much. Back in the main hall. Lynn, Lady Lillian, we got approval. Understood. Lillian posted the recruitment notice. Adventurers gathered instantly. Monster hunts in the undeveloped forest? A village with sturdy walls? Hot springs? A base inside the forest? That's gold. Think we can get as strong as that greatsword woman? We've got a lot of work waiting for us. Amanda blinked. Me? Marcos chuckled. Looks like there's nothing to worry about. Ecto smiled. Yeah. Departure day. Departing for Boda village. Adventurers seeking transport, line up in 2 rows. Lynn beamed. I can't believe so many are coming. We've got 4 wagons, Ecto said. The rest will rotate walking shifts. Amanda scowled. Why is he here? The masochist adventurer panted heavily. This isn't over. I'll level up and crush you next time. Take us with you. Amanda crossed her arms. No stalkers allowed. And our lord would never allow. Sure, Ecto said casually. Huh. Lynn's fine with it too. Amanda grabbed his collar. You'll take anyone for development. Wait, Amanda. He gently took her hands. If they harm villagers or adventurers, I'll deal with it. I promise. I won't let anyone touch you or the team. She froze. Ecto. A voice scoffed. Humph. At least the kid gets it. Amanda snapped. Shut it, trash can armor. Chaos resumed. Ecto shook hands with the headband man. Let's get along. A familiar voice ran up. Sorry to keep you waiting, Lord Ecto. It was the receptionist. I'm Ari. I've been assigned as receptionist for Boda Village's new guild branch. The rest of the staff will arrive shortly. I see, Ecto said warmly. Thank you. He raised his voice. All right everyone, let's go home. Off to Boda Village. They were on the road to Boda Village, surrounded by nothing but endless forest. Birds chirped overhead, and the wind rustled through the trees, but aside from that, there was only silence. One of the adventurers scanned the scenery and muttered, "It's just forest, that's all we've seen since we left the last town." Day 1 already. Another complained, "Didn't you say it would only take half a wagon's journey from the capital? Just how deep in the sticks is this village?" Aurum, usually overflowing with energy, looked exhausted for once. She walked beside the carriage, breathing heavily, her steps uneven. Noticing her condition, the lecherous-looking adventurer leader asked his teammate, "You got any healing potions?" The teammate frowned. "Leader, are you not feeling well?" "It's not for me," he replied. From the front carriage, Ecto noticed Aurum as well. "Aurum? You look pale." She forced a smile and waved him off. "I'm fine, really. It's nothing." The adventurer leader climbed down from his carriage and approached her. Amanda immediately stepped forward, placing herself between him and Aurum. "No need to be so suspicious," the man said calmly. "Our alchemist made a special recovery potion. Drink it." "I said I'm fine," Aurum replied, awkwardly refusing. Seeing her distrust, the man frowned. He lifted his metal helmet and took a gulp from the bottle. "See? Not poisoned. You can relax." He lowered the helmet again. "It didn't even touch my lips." Then he tossed the potion to Aurum. She caught it, confused. "Ah, thanks." At that moment, mana swirled through the air. Aurum was gently lifted off the ground and placed into the carriage beside Sifa. "Here," Sifa said. "Switch with Ecto. If you don't mind my lap, rest for a while." Aurum hesitated, then nodded. "Sorry for the trouble, Sifa." "Ecto." "Don't worry," Ecto said. "Just rest." He turned toward the armored adventurer. "Thanks, armor guy. You really helped me out." "Forget that," the man replied. "Where are we getting to this village? It's not just the kid, some of us are worn out too. Damn beasts keep popping up along the road." "We're less than a day away," Ecto answered. "Once we arrive, we'll recover in the hot springs." The armored man asked, "We passed a few tiny villages earlier. Are those part of the kid's domain too?" "You mean Gore's village and Gain village?" Ecto replied. "Yeah. They were part of the Frontier Marquis 8 until recently. I inherited them. From what I saw, they're in about the same state Boda village was, along with Curse village, Rama village, and Cute village. That makes 5 in total." He recalled the Chancellor's suggestion. "Managing them separately will be difficult. We've been discussing merging them with Boda village," he continued. "The issue is getting each village chief to agree." Ecto crossed his arms and sighed. "Still a long way to go." The armored man thought to himself, if the villages we passed looked like that, then Boda village can't be much better. Let's make some money and head back to the capital once we're bored. Then he looked up and froze. A massive wall stood before them. Sweat broke out across his face. What the hell is this? Ecto was already guiding the carriage through the gates when the old village chief, Anji, greeted him. "Welcome home." "I'm back," Ecto said. "I've officially received the title of Baron, Anji." Anji's eyes widened. "That's wonderful, congratulations. So, who are these people?" "I brought adventurers from the capital to hunt nearby monsters," Ecto explained. "And I'm also establishing an adventurers guild branch here. I got permission from the guild master." The elder froze. "First, I want to build lodgings on the vacant lot," Ecto continued. "Then expand the forest clearing to widen our territory. Since we're merging villages, I need to speak with the other chiefs." He suddenly grabbed his head. "Wait, housing comes first. Then more walls, district divisions, sewage expansion, everyone will help with that in." He stopped. Anji was trembling. "What's wrong?" Ecto asked. Tears streamed down the old man's face. "I never imagined the village I was born in would grow this much." He grasped Ecto's hands and bowed slightly. "To you, this may be just one of many frontier villages, but you chose to face it head-on with such dedication. As chief, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm truly glad you're our lord." Ecto was at a loss for words. Finally, he placed a hand on Anji's shoulder. "Thank you. But I can't do this alone. I'll need your help, now and in the future." Anji smiled through his tears. "This old man will give everything he has." "In that case," Ecto said, "please escort the adventurers to the bathhouse. I'll start on the lodgings." "You've just returned, please rest," Anji urged. "Let me finish this one thing," Ecto replied. "Then I'll relax." Aurum approached. "Ecto, I'll help too." "No," he said firmly. "You need rest." "The potion worked great," she insisted. "Besides, you're bad with interior work, right?" "Ugh." He couldn't argue. Lin stepped forward. We'll unpack and prepare dinner. Much appreciated, Ecto said. Until the guild is set up, Arlie will stay with Len and Lady Liliane. She replied, understood. The adventurers were led away to the bathhouse. Amanda waved. Call if you need anything. Thanks for your work, Ecto replied. Later, Ecto and Orem stood in an empty lot. All right, Ecto said. Let's build the lodgings. There are so many trees and weeds, Orem said. That's why it's perfect. One-room apartment style. Simple. One room, what? Orem, handle the interior. Roger. Magic circles formed. Trees, rocks, and brush trembled, then lifted into the air, sliced cleanly and divided. Orem shaped the interiors with precise magic, stacking materials neatly aside. Let's let it dry, she said cheerfully. In less than 30 minutes, a 6-story building stood completed. Both collapsed onto the ground. Not bad, Ecto muttered. 30 minutes. I'm starving, Orem said. I want Len's cooking. Ecto glanced at her. Want to stay over? Orem's face lit up. Really? Yay! Hot springs at Ecto's place, let's bathe together. Absolutely not, Ecto said flatly. Why not? Not happening. That night, deep within the forest, something moved. It slipped into a massive underground hole, crawling through dark tunnels where countless similar creatures gathered. Slimes. Swarming beneath the land. Whether they were hostile or something else entirely, remained unknown.